Well, we're live.
It's fine. It's not like we'll have people immediately.
It's okay. I'm excited to hear your information on the Bermuda Triangle, because I know this is like a thing for you.
For most of my youth, I was hugely interested in it.
Oh, you were a nerd who was into nerd shit?
What? No,
oh,
never.
you like shit that was of the unknown?
What? Yeah, very surprising. The Bermuda Triangle is always particular. I love I can't even say Bermuda right for some reason. It doesn't fit my mouth.
Yes.
Huh?
That's it. Okay, thank you. But yes, I want to do scary games.
Where are you putting that?
I'm gonna put it on my personal stuff.
Okay.
I don't have our Twitter up, and I'm gonna put it on my Instagram. Is that okay?
Yeah,
Is that okay? Do I have your permission?
Yeah, I was just curious so that I can do the ghost house picture.
Hello. We're talking about mysteries of the deep. Okay. But how was your New Year's? My gosh. Because last week we
Hi! There's a person.
Oh, hey, Liker, what's going on, sweetie? We're currently updating our socials saying people were left because I'm stupid. I started too soon.
We'll take just
and
a
at
second.
the last minute, he was like, no. And I was like, oopsie. How you doing, Liger? How you doing?
Liger says, how we doing?
Oh, we're doing great.
I'm always doing great.
How you feeling, though?
I'm good. I'm no longer sick, and that's nice.
I know. That was fun.
Dude, I should have showed you how snotty I was. It was awesome.
He has a tendency to fight through things, and he was like, if I wasn't half snot, I'd be making you do this show. And I'd be like, look, I know you think you would be doing a good job.
Yeah.
But you probably would have been...
To be fair, my voice was awesome. It was like...
Was it deep?
It was deep, and it was...
Ultra concord.
it just had a lot of...
I'm just going to talk like this.
Reverb. That was all caused by snot. It was great.
Well, we smoked cigars last night.
Oh, yeah.
So my throat's a little... Like, it's a bit more...
Yeah. You don't have to do it that way. You could call it sultry. And you pretend that it's a good
Nothing about me is sultry.
thing.
I mean, sometimes when I got something on my mind, I could be... but nothing about me is sultry. So I'm not ignoring you. I'm just updating. But today we're talking about Mysteries of the Deep.
Yeah.
Do you have an interesting experience, Liker, with the deep? You know what makes me sad? I'm going to Florida every year for about 30-something years. And I have never... I've seen dolphins. I've seen a shark.
That's awesome.
But I haven't seen a ghost. Oh, no, wait, that's bullshit. I'm a liar.
You got one?
I've seen lights. The beep, 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 beep. Beep, beep, beep.
I don't know what this is.
Beep, beep, beep.
I don't know what this
Beep, beep,
is.
beep.
That doesn't help.
It's like a trail of lights. And it's like I keep saying, like, excuse me. And that was a really cool experience. It was probably because there's an army base nearby and they were doing something. So I'm not surprised if I saw. But I never seen a mermaid. I've been the mermaid.
You are a mermaid.
Like, these are my mermaid tails. Hey, I saw a huge hammerhead that was larger than 20 feet. Fuck you. No.
Dude.
No.
So, when I was little, the Goosebumps books were huge, and they were all the rage. And one of them, for whatever reason, the one that corresponded with June on the Goosebumps calendar, the art for the book, the cover of it, was just a hammerhead shark. So, as a kid who liked spooky stuff, I was like, it's on the cover of a Goosebumps book. It must be a monster. So, I had the dubious and stupid privilege of not believing hammerhead sharks were real and thinking that they were a monster.
They are a monster, though.
Well, they are. But I got in an argument with the kid in first grade about the fact that they weren't real. Hi!
Oh my god, who is that? She's a gold lady.
And that is exactly correct. That is why sharks are associated with June. It's because those hammerheads will get you in June. No, yeah, I just didn't believe in them. I thought that it was on the covers of Goosebumps book. It couldn't possibly be real. So I got in an argument with the kid about it. And I still feel like a dumbass about it to this very day.
No.
No, yes. It's very fucking stupid.
Like we talked about with cryptids, some cryptids were thought to be monsters and they were real.
Yeah, except
Hammerhead was your
but it's the
cryptid.
Backwards. There was a real animal that went, nuh-uh.
It's not real.
It's a monster.
It's not real. Okay, but today we are talking about Mysteries of the Deep, and we have several subjects to go over.
And honestly, today's going to be even more ADD than normal, which is, already fucking wild because...
We're good at this.
Yeah, we're already very ADD. But between last night and hanging out, and then the way that I did notes for this episode, we're gonna be hopping all over the goddamn place.
Oh my god! Saw a manta ray gliding on top of the water into her boat, and it was a giant boat. That's cool.
Do you fish? Or that sounds like deep sea fishing stuff.
Are you in
that's
Florida, like?
awesome.
I forget because I have some people who watch who are in Florida.
I got this.
But anyways, so obviously one of the subjects of today is mermaids. One of my specialties. I collect mermaid tails. I actually have technically 5, but 2 are retired because they're very, very heavy, and one of the zippers broke. And it's not because I gained weight. It's because even you had to.
It was definitely.
It was done. I was done. Like, I had to be stuffed in it like a fish. Like, my poor mother would have to be like, "Your ass is too fat to get this in here." I'm like, "Mom, shut up." They have to roll me. These are much easier, but this is I actually used to know the names of the fish, and I forgot. But these are based stepless like this. Anyways, we're not here to talk about mermaid tails.
Yeah, but we could be.
We could. So, my favorite thing about when I was researching mermaids is, well, first of all, I take more credence. I don't take credence in it. Oh, what is this? Oh, Andy! This is Andy, my friend.
Oh, Andy! Hi, Andy.
Hey, baby. We're starting off with the mermaids, then we're going to cover the Bermuda Triangle, and then we'll cover ghost ships.
Yeah.
We were going to do haunted lighthouse.
Oh, I got stuff.
You got haunted lighthouse?
Oh, yeah. As I said, today's going to be very ADD. We got a lot of random stuff going.
I tried to research haunted lighthouses.
You don't got to know every subject.
And I was like, they're not haunted, it's all sounds. It's all the same. Like, to me, every haunted lighthouse was the same, and I was like, I'm bored. Yeah. I'm gonna go back to reading about Mary Celeste.
ADHD. That's what that is.
Yay! Okay, look at all that good-looking people. Well, if you joined us,
thank you so much.
We'd be thrice as sexy. Please don't look at the winter fudge. It's all salt.
You got a table blocking.
I know.
Don't worry.
All salt. It's all whiskey.
See, I wish I could say all of this was salt, but unfortunately that is not the case.
So I wanted to look into mermaids because mermaids have been a huge part of my childhood, and I really like the scientific aspect of it. Most likely are mermaid sightings manatees or seals. Yes, that's probably what it is. And I accept that. But I just love how, first of all, the first mermaid sighting, I'm so excited, was 2nd century in Gaul. And it's written by Pliny the Elder.
I'm already hitting the question. When you say first mermaid sighting, do you mean like first
recorded mermaid sighting?
Okay, cool. All right.
And then, of course, if you jump ahead several hundred years ago,
a long time.
Blackbeard, which is in 16th century.
My boy.
He had a log book that said these are where mermaids are sighted. We're not going there because supposedly he lost people to them. And I'm like,
oh, I love it.
And then there's Christopher Columbus.
Yep, famously.
And granted, Blackbeard's after Christopher Columbus. I'm jumping around. My apologies. But his sightings were believed to be manatees because they said they were fat and manly in face. I'm like, dude, that's a manatee.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know where America is, or you don't know where the Indies are, and then you don't know what. It's like, get it right, dude. There are more recent sightings. Like in 1967, there was supposedly a blonde woman dressed as a mermaid on a rock eating a raw salmon. I think that was a joke.
I love it.
I think that was a joke. And also look at these. These are very good mermaid costumes. And I'm like, when it gets to 1900s, I'm like, okay, these are, I want to believe.
Yeah, of course.
I want to believe. But like, there's mermaids in every culture. My favorite one is the Ningyo in Japan. And what it is, they're a little bit more pretty now in Japanese culture.
Yeah, a lot of superstitious stuff has been evolving.
It's been sexualized.
Well, a little bit.
Because who doesn't want a mermaid?
Who doesn't want to fuck Mothman? Right.
But there's if you want to look more into mermaids from the Japanese side, look up the manga Rumiko Takahashi's Mermaid Saga. It's one of my favorite manga series. And I believe it's finished.
I can't believe I've not heard of this.
No, I mean, Rumiko Takahashi has done a lot. It was in her Yasura Atsura. I'm not saying that name right. It's in her older 80s, 90s.
Okay,
days.
cool.
This was before Inuyasha. This was before even Ranma 1/2.
Wild.
This is a manga channel too.
Apparently.
I know, right?
But that's awesome. Yeah, I had no idea. Okay.
But really, here's the kicker, and this is why Ningyo are my favorite. And Ningyo are the shape of fish, body of a fish, human head, mouth of a monkey. Beautiful already.
Okay.
I am getting chills. I'm
I love it. I just want to hug it.
Like King Triton level hot, right there.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But my favorite.
Also, what does mouth of a monkey even mean? What does that?
I don't. This is a monkey.
I don't like that one though. He's spooky.
So then, but the thing is, if you eat the flesh of a mermaid, you
Yeah.
will have eternal youth and beauty, but your village will suffer. That
Right,
is my
right,
favorite
right.
thing, because you have all these things, but then you will end up lonely.
Right.
And everybody around you will die. And I love that. And then, like, I'm a little sporadic right now because a lot of this was done last minute.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
dude, no, this whole episode's gonna be sporadic.
And then back in, like, 1932 with the occupation of Japan and Indonesia, and I probably have the year wrong, it's probably 40s or 30s, there was... Actually, I have notes on it. Oh, look, I'm allowed to look at notes.
Yeah,
Weathermen can
of
look
course
at notes.
you are.
Ah, no, that's the Orang Madon. That's Selkies. This is Mary Celeste.
Well, while you look for those,
Yeah.
I'm just going to throw out the fact that for people who don't know Ashley, like on a day-to-day, just in her living, she claims to be a mermaid frequently. And these mermaid tails, they may look like they're just costume bits that she's bought, but much like the skin of a Selkie, it's actually what she wears to turn back into her true self.
That's it.
And these two tails aren't her only one. She has a...
I have 5. I have 5.
And it's a cheap, totally normal hobby for a person to have.
Totally cheap, very, very affordable for anybody.
It's fine. What?
I totally didn't take advantage when I was on several contract jobs, just grabbing this shit left and right. You know what? Like, everybody, you gotta upgrade your skills. You know, you gotta braid your hair.
But it is true. She's actually a mermaid, though. Like,
I will take
we sound like we're
to
joking.
Pool parties, and I'll just hang out and then be like, "This is what we're doing."
And she really does not care about people. We were at a public pool. There was like families swimming.
I was like,
and as she arrives, and she pulls out her big, like, beaded, beautiful blue mermaid tail and starts sliding. And she needs people, to help her into it. But the very top of her mermaid tail is like, just your butt. So it's beautiful. It's a wonderful, magical piece of being friends with Ashley.
I'm a mermaid, and I would dye my hair, but now I'm done with that because my human side is like, you can't do that. That's too expensive. So
I like the money. We are both water souls.
We are,
though, and we have been forever.
So here's the thing. I was going to talk about it later, but we got to talk about Melusina.
Right.
Melusina is an ancient French spirit that is a mermaid spirit, but she has 2 tails usually. You see her everywhere. You see her on Starbucks. That's Melusina.
Right.
And royal families have been known to claim lineage to Melusina, like the Luxembourgs. Well, here's the thing. So, this is my favorite theory about me, myself, and my family, is if you look really closely, like if you do for any family, really, everybody's related to everybody.
Right.
I'm related to the Stuarts.
Right.
The Stuarts also were related to the Luxembourgs. Therefore, I'm a descendant of a river goddess. It's right there.
It's just fact.
And
we're just being scientific about it. It's not silly.
This is something I take to heart. This is something you need a little fantasy. No, this isn't fantasy. You need something magical. And this is my magical thing. Like, I'm related to a 2-tailed river goddess in France.
Yeah,
so we
I know.
gotta go to the Melusine.
I don't know why you're using an inflection that would imply I doubt you. I know who you are. It's good. I believe it.
No, it is true. Melusine has been claimed to be the deity mother of a bunch of families back in France and royal families, because also royal families also deem themselves deity-like.
Yeah, almost
like
always.
God chosen by God. So why don't you add a little fish sauce in that?
Yeah.
Add a little fish sauce. But also, I'm going to go back to the Kai Islands of 1943. That's when the Japanese occupation of Indonesia during the war was happening. And like I said, this is one of my favorite fish sightings because they're fucking ugly. And I love ugly mermaids. Sometimes inside, I feel like an ugly mermaid.
Okay, I understand.
I feel like I have a bunch of spikes and frog fins. Like these people.
But do you have the badass inflatable neck?
How embarrassing would that be if, like, I found someone attractive and I just started inflating my neck?
You know what? It wouldn't be embarrassing because the very, very first time that you did that beautiful, handsome, lucky man would respond in turn.
But, okay, so what I love, it's the local villagers, and I'm reading this off my notes because this is a lot of information. And so the local villagers in the Kai Islands of Indonesia, they have a creature that they consider their mermaid, and they called it an orang ikan. And so during World War II, the Japanese soldiers were stationed in Indonesia, like I've said 50 times. And and also there was multiple claims, like multiple written down claims of sightings of these fish people.
Love it.
And manfish. And it's an amphibious creature that was mostly seen to be in the sea. And they also have spikes on their spines, shoulders, and necks. So it's almost like a lionfish.
Okay.
Already hot.
Yeah,
Delicious.
absolutely. Your lionfish is the hottest fish. Everybody knows this.
I really wanted a lionfish tail, but it was too expensive.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of parts there.
It was like $1,000, and I was like, don't do it. Don't do it.
Did it actually have all like the lionfish spines and stuff?
It did.
Man, I bet that was
I've sent
uncomfortable.
it to 50 friends and we all cried together. It was a very nice way of connecting with them. So instead of a single tail, they had 2 frog-like fins and long arms.
Weird.
And then so like, and these things would supposedly jump out and land on rocks and go, and then they would jump back in. And it's my favorite.
That's beautiful.
Because you have these beautiful tales of selkies, of women, and I think that's a metaphor for women who don't want to be inundated and weighed down by family life and children, because not every woman or man is meant to be in a family, let's admit it.
Right.
But the selkie tales, for those who don't know, and what you're probably are going to find most in popular culture, and there's a Selkie animated movie I need to watch.
I know. I can't believe I haven't seen it.
And wait, hold on. Does she really like
asking if Melissa Day flies?
Did she? Oh, I forgot.
I also forgot that she's in Witcher as well.
Well, what if they had the ability to
Identity.
retract spines? Liger? Like, think about it.
Oh yeah, but I think he's just talking about the tail itself that you would buy.
He's like, oh.
Yeah.
I mean, these are very soft, so
They're very
not gonna
soft.
hurt anybody.
They are. This is true.
But okay, so back to this, because I'm being ADD. A sergeant named Mr. Taro-san requested the villagers to inform him if any of the Rangi-kun were captured dead or alive. The soldiers summoned the general soon after, who saw the creature with his own eyes. And of course, like, he tried to get the scientific community involved. Nothing happened.
Yep.
I like to think it was local villagers playing a prank. Like, I want to believe these things, but also the scientific side of me is like, that's really fucking funny.
Yeah.
If you just mess with it.
Yeah, I usually think that a prank is the weakest logical way to explain away something. Though possible, because some of these were pranks.
But maybe they were things that they were hunted down, like things where it became extinct. I do think magical creatures do have a basis in reality.
Absolutely, yeah. And very, very often we see really mundane creatures. Like there's a monster called the Catabulpus, and this isn't a water guy, but I gotta talk about it now because that's how ADD works.
Yeah.
There's a creature called the Catabulpus, which is this horrible, shaggy, awful monster with an incredibly long neck, and a big, ugly face. That's breath. You got that neck. He got that neck for days. And the Catabulpus, just to see it will kill you. And the reason why, it's not magic. It's that ugly. It's so ugly that looking at it kills you. And then in some cultures and some takes of it, instead it said its breath is so bad that it kills you. But what it was the first time Europeans saw wildebeest. They were like, what the fuck is that? Why does it look so bad? And they came home with these tales of the Catabulpus, and they were like, luckily we didn't get much closer because it was obviously incredibly dangerous. It was so ugly. I'm like, it's a wildebeest. I think there's a lot of myths and a lot of creatures out there that realistically are just animals that they're not even extinct. Yeah. It's just shit that's still around today. But when seen through the eyes of somebody who superstition was still alive and well for them, it transformed into something miraculous.
What do you think about that woman eating a raw salmon on top of rocks in 1967?
I think that she sounded like a fucking catch.
I know. I was like, that's my girl.
I want to eat raw salmon on rocks near the ocean. That's like my dream day.
There's also a recent story from a professional mermaid, actually. And what happened was there was a cover story on her because 2 divers were diving really deep in Hawaii. Okay. And she had to rescue these divers. And it was her and a group of mermaids. Now, these girls are trained to hold their breath at depths and depths and depths. Yeah. And so it's a modern mermaid rescue story.
I love that.
But it's like with the presence of, I mean, I've never done this, but with the presence of store-bought fins, it's just a story that's made die about sightings because now you can see a mermaid.
Yeah,
but is it really a mermaid?
No, I kind of love that though. That's fantastic.
Too.
So, I think we've given officially enough time that I'm going to just kind of hit anybody who's watching with our disclaimer that we have to throw on at the beginning of the show, which is number 1. We may be talking about things that are documented and historically captured and stuff. That does not mean we are actually experts on the shit or that we're going to get it right. We both have crippling ADHD. We just happen to really, really enjoy these topics.
And we love them, and they're fun, and it's magic.
And we're not trying to lead you astray. We just might misremember or tangle a date or two or whatever. Also, when you're talking about old-timey stuff and old myths and old legends, sometimes stuff's kind of fucked up and triggering. So this is, we're talking about horror. We're talking about spooky stuff. If that's not your cup of tea, then this isn't your cup of tea.
But just remember that Christopher Columbus thought a manatee was a mermaid.
Or he saw some fat, thick mermaids.
Who is this? Plum Plum. Hi, baby. How you doing? Is that Dan or is that Jordan?
I think it's Jordan. I don't remember.
Hello. We're talking about mermaids, which I obviously am. We did have the idea of me wearing one of my tails, but then I would have to be upside down.
And she tried to talk me into wearing a tail, and That's a great idea, but not yet. Not this early in this stream existing.
There is something we want to do where we do want to wear tails and mermaid shell bras.
Oh, yeah. Well, I look good in shell bras, though. I always have.
Yeah.
But I've never worn a tail.
I love it. I like the idea of me just dressing up like a pirate.
I'm also so aggressively claustrophobic. I feel like the first time I would notice I couldn't move my legs in tandem, you would be very sad about what happened to your tail.
I'm gonna be honest. It does fuck with you.
Oh, I bet it does.
It does fuck with you a bit, where it's like, oh my god, this is so debilitating.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't. But thankfully, these have a zipper, because modern fins do, and you can actually walk if you want to. But speaking of, do we want to go deeper into selkies?
We're just gonna roll. We're gonna roll around. This is Wet and Wild. The theme today is watery horror, so we're gonna do this Wet and Wild.
So there's like types of selkies types of mermaids where they're beautiful and enchanting, monstrous, or adorable and fat.
Liger, I promise that if you ever catch us wearing shell bras, they will be checked for grumpy, angry hermit crabs way before they go in our body. Unless they're trained pet crabs that can come out and greet people.
What if they just tickle your nipples a little bit?
I know. Crabs are very chitinous. I'm not a huge fan of that.
Look, it's been a while. Okay, it's been a while for me. So honestly, tickling crab nipples.
So a hermit crab that you're attracted to is going to do the job.
I don't have to be emotionally involved. I just get my little tickles.
So to pull this back to subject, first off, so humanity, for whatever reason, and it's probably because so much of our history, we've depended on water. We live near rivers. We set up our largest cities along coastlines. We, in so many ways, we're seafaring creatures. And even though we are land-bound, the moment you take us too far from water, it takes a generation or two before those towns, those landlocked ones, die off, and we find ourselves near water again. Mm-hmm. You can look at so many different cultures where the source of not just drinking water, but the kind of life flow of water is the heart of their culture. You can go to India and its many sacred rivers, the Egyptians and the Nile, or just everywhere.
The
Melusine is a great example.
Blessed and Native American tribes had probably holy rivers as well.
Yeah. They did, and lakes and devil's lakes. And so the thing is like, obviously we're going to have this great wealth of folklore and mystery surrounding water, because we're not aquatic. But our relationship with water, we choose to surround ourselves with it. So, of course, horror is going to bubble into it. We're going to add magic to it.
We don't know what's in there. You can't see. And also, we are connected to it. If you do believe in evolution, that is where we
it's the source of everything. Yeah.
And it feeds you, it keeps you alive, and so it's like this weird, but it's also something you need to respect. Like, I can't fight with Mother Nature. Nobody can. Nobody has found a way to fight the ocean. So it's like, oh my god, you give me life, but you can also fucking wreck me.
Yeah. Well, and if you go, like, I hate that I always go to Greek gods, but those are the ones that get drilled into us in school. Like, everybody always largely thanks to Disney, like, we always want to see Hades as like our bad guy of the big powerful gods. But Poseidon wasn't just an angry, tumultuous god. In many, many different takes in Greek mythology, he was kind of the villain of the pantheon. He was the evil figure in the pantheon. Because he was an asshole.
He was such an asshole.
And we are scared of the ocean, and we need it to treat us right. And that's why, like, sailors actually ended up developing a lot of their own mythologies that weren't based in the religions of the land masses they came from. And not even just with little silly terms like Davy Jones' Locker and stuff, but like literal minuscule pantheons that existed in certain trade companies and stuff, which I just think is awesome. There's never been another profession that is sponsored. And that's where, like, mermaids, kelpies, selkies, the whole, like,
it's all its own mythology.
It really is.
Nereids,
it's tied
selkies,
to
blah,
the
blah, blah.
right. It's tied to the other mythologies that those people were from. But on its own, like, the mythology of water really is its own thing, which is my really long-winded way of saying that obviously you're descended from a water goddess. I mean, we already knew that.
It's just the tales of raw, how do you say this? Like, raw emotion, I think is what is most occupied, and that's where selkies come in. And I know I've gone back on selkies 50 times.
Yeah, but now let's hit, what are selkies? For people who don't know what selkies are.
So selkies are women who, it's kind of like the Swan Maiden type of theory. You take on a costume, you take it off, but it's not a costume, it's your skin. So when you put on your selkie costume, you turn into a seal, you go into the water, you live your life. And then you come up, you take off your skin for whatever reason. There are many reasons why. And there are tales of men stealing Selkie skin so they can marry these women. But once these women find their skin, they're like, bye, bitch, I'm out.
Yeah.
So it's...
There's multiple different tales.
And there's so
that
much
all come
modern media about it. I didn't realize how many movies were about this, or books, not just animated movies, but like 1995 there was a movie that
I didn't actually know that.
I know, I want to watch all these.
That's wild.
And I will admit this, I never was really attracted to Selkies because I don't find seals pretty.
Oh, I love seals.
I mean, they're awesome. When I was younger, I of course wanted the splash
yeah.
mermaid kind of experience. But to have like all these stories in Nordic and Scandinavian, and the difference of appearance with them, what they mean, and what does it mean to women's relationships with water, to taking from the sea, but then it eventually goes back.
Yeah.
That's also kind of a metaphor. Like, whatever you take goes back.
Right.
You can't keep it.
So, weirdly enough, when I roll it back to the episode that we were just talking about, like, Ghost.
Good idea. Selkie movie marathon.
Ooh, that'd be fun. But to roll back to many episodes ago where we were talking about Ghosts, and I was talking about Donkey Lady. And I brought up the fact that in Native American mythology and some Central American mythology, there was these figures that had, like, horse heads, but they were beautiful women otherwise.
Yeah.
I
mean, horses are hot.
Well, yeah, okay, they were like rotting horse.
Oh, by the way, don't you like how horses are the symbolism for water for Poseidon?
Yeah, I love that. I actually do love that. What the hell? It's so bizarre. But one thing that I thought was really, really interesting is when I was learning or filling myself back in on that, I learned that you can kind of track it. Selkies and those weird horse-headed ladies
come from the same.
They're like the same mythological line, which I thought was really interesting because, like, Selkies, the concept of, like, your beautiful woman who's actually this mythical seal creature and you can't exist in both worlds at once. Like, by taking off the seal skin, you are a human and then you are a seal. Like, that does not seem like a lady with a rotting horse skull for a head much to me. But, you know, that's the wonderful thing
about... it's rotting?
Yeah.
Oh, that doesn't
Yeah, it's a big rotting horse.
If it was a regular
head.
horse.
Yeah.
But isn't that Kelpies, too?
Yeah.
Kelpies is, you know, the horse in swamps and bogs who can bring you to your death.
Kelpies are awesome.
I like them. They're pretty fun.
Well, and then you got all
they're terrifying.
You got all the other water ladies. You got naiads, which is our water sprites or fairies, kind of. You got straight up water sprites, which is somehow different than naiads. You got nereids, which are like...
I love the nereids. I love Oceanus's daughter.
They're great. Yeah. No, that's the stuff that's tied to...
But this is how deep it goes into the mythology of just water as its own being. Like, because also you made a point about how Poseidon's the scariest one. Hades has a job.
Yeah.
His job, everybody's got to die.
And he doesn't like his job.
That's his job.
He just got to do it.
But Poseidon is like, I'm going to wreck your shit.
Uh-huh.
And I love that.
And if he feels disrespected for a second. And sometimes the things that disrespect him aren't able to be known by man.
Yeah.
So you wind up with a guy who just does shit.
Odysseus, that dumb motherfucker.
Oh, my boy. So
nymphs, yes, water nymphs.
Yeah. Oh, and nymphs break out to even more little sub creatures, which is it's yet again remains wonderful. Well, and that's so tying it way back to when I was talking about just the fact that, like, we built our civilization around rivers and lakes and stuff like that. Ultimately, in the West, because of the proliferation of Christianity and whatnot, we don't view divinity the same way that a lot of the rest of the world does. And for us, divinity is always incredibly distant. God is far away and is always completely powerful. But for most of human history, gods have always been right there. They live at that well. They live at that river. And you could visit it. You could go to that river and you knew that it was the stomping ground of this particular deity. And they weren't like, oh no, they're actually on Olympus. They just happened, this river's important to them. Nah, they lived in that river. And if you saw something mysterious, it was that god. It was real. And eventually, when we look back at mythology and we talk about things like naiads and nymphs and stuff, we talk about them like they're some class of, like, fairy or monster out of, like, a Dungeons and Dragons monster manual. But that's not accurate at all. Like, these entities were deities. They were just on a much smaller scale than things like, you know, the beings of Mount Olympus and whatnot. And that's part of the reason why these myths were able to survive a lot of the religions and belief systems that spawned them, is because they were so ingrained in the various little areas that they existed in that when religion moved, well, that hill didn't move, so it still belonged to this entity. This river didn't move, so it still belonged to blank. And I think that's where you end up getting concepts like, I don't know why I'm talking about Donkey Lady again, but I think that's why.
Do you want to go see Donkey Lady?
I do. I want to go to Donkey Lady Bridge. I do.
love the idea of us actually recording us doing this.
We're gonna
in San Antonio and Donkey Lady. But I feel like you need to have a conversation with Donkey Lady. I feel like you need to have a heart-to-heart.
I do. Well, she needs a hug. But
by the way, if you want to know what Donkey Lady is,
different
go
episode.
on our YouTube. Yeah, we have Donkey Lady there.
But the point, though, the reason I even bring her up again is like she haunts specifically. It's a bridge over a river, and it's that spot. And like knowing this myth about these desiccated horsehead women, they would generally that tradition is hundreds of years old and is tied to the mythology of the Native Americans. And generally, they were known to haunt spots, but they weren't viewed as ghosts. They were the same thing as these naiads and whatnot. She belongs to that river, and like in her own tale, she fell into that river and died. And so it's interesting because it's like, it's almost like the 1800s took a pre-existing American nymph, and it evolved into this horrible, beautiful, bloody story of Donkey Lady.
And it's like when you die on these areas, maybe occupied by gods, you belong to them. Mm-hmm. You belong to that river.
Or you just become part of the mythos. So, if we've established why water is spooky and why humans have so many fun creatures and tales of water, I think that it's only appropriate that we talk about some spooky water locations and just stuff. And so I'm gonna just kind of talk. You interrupt me all you want, and then I know that you know some ghost ship stuff. So
that's such fun. Though.
It is ghost ship fun.
This is definitely Kyle's.
Well, some of it is. As I said, I'm very ADD today, so we'll see how far I go.
It's been 2 weeks, so I think it's okay that we take a little bit of time getting back on our shit.
Yeah, for sure. So, very, 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 very first thing is I'm going to talk about something that you weren't able to find much good on, which is lighthouses. Real quick. So, do you know how dangerous it was to be an old-timey lighthouse guy?
It's not that I didn't find it. It's too much to it.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Too much to it.
Do you know anything about like what it took to be an old-timey lighthouse person?
It took 24/7, very lonely, very cold, horrible. Very wet, and if you had any company, it was your wife, who you would probably murder.
Yeah.
That's what I get from
that. You're not very far off. So for the longest time, lighthouses being a lighthouse keeper was one of the most dangerous jobs that you could possibly do. And it was weird because like ultimately your whole job was just live in a lighthouse. Like even keeping the light going, it wasn't very taxing or very difficult. But the job of live here was a son of a bitch. It was a hard as hell job. And a big part of that is for lighthouses to be really effective. Sometimes they were right off the coast. Sometimes they were on a peninsula connected to land. But most of the time they were on islands. Yeah. And sometimes these islands could be way too far from the people who are giving you supplies and stuff. So, and they didn't have their own...
You couldn't go to a gas station. You couldn't go to H-E-B. Right. You couldn't go to Walmart. We don't get it. We don't get it.
No. And they didn't have any of their own... Often, they didn't even have their own infrastructure. Which is to say that, like, if a ship pulled up to your little island to give you supplies, like, there wasn't always even a dock for them to come up to. They're just throwing shit at you from the boat.
You finally get the Cheetos you wanted for 2 months. Yeah. And just fall in the fucking wall. I'm sorry. I would die.
No, exactly. and that's... So, obviously, if we take it back to our ghost episode for a little bit, obviously a place that is as lonely, as isolated, and as dangerous is gonna develop tales of ghosts.
And it's also surrounded by water and hail, and it's old,
and all the
creeks
elements.
And rust. And by the way, Rachel was reading my fucking mind because I did think about that lighthouse scene from our Flag Means Death, and then she brings up our Flag Means Death fan fiction, and I don't appreciate you calling me out like that on stream. I'll share some with you later. Go on.
But so the whole reason I even wanted to include lighthouses in this episode is kind of silly, but a lot of episodes, what we're going to be talking about is going to have its own ghost stories. Yeah. And lighthouses, they like to be haunted. It's one of their hobbies, if you want to believe in ghosts. And as I've already established on this show, I may not believe in a lot of paranormal stuff. I'm just interested in it, but I do 100% completely believe in ghosts due to my own life experiences, which will be the subject of its own episode someday.
And I believe in ghosts through his life experience.
Yay! And somebody else in this chat believes in ghosts through my life experiences, and they got to experience it with me, and that's great. Thank you. But ultimately, tragedy happens at lighthouses all the time, and some of these stories used to be a little bit more hidden. Like when I first learned them, they were, but they've been adapted, and now it's like movies and stuff, which is steals some of my thunder a tiny bit, but that's fine.
It's okay. You guys probably haven't watched movies.
So, first off, I'm going to ADD upwards to us.
Okay.
So, Bolivar Lighthouse in Galveston.
Yes, we should go.
I want us to go. And also, there's a great ghost tour in Galveston I really, really enjoy. It's a very, very, very good one. We should just do that and make a thing out of it and film it, and it'd be great.
Galveston is actually a pretty hot spot for haunted shit.
Oh, yeah.
And also, don't forget the major flood of 19.
Well, and that's why it's a hot spot for haunted shit. The worst,
travesty.
for people who don't know Texas history, the worst natural disaster in American history was a hurricane in 1900 that had upwards of 7,000 deaths in Galveston. So just on death count alone, it's considered the all-time worst natural disaster in American history. And according to people who live in Galveston, Isaac Storm, that's right. According to people who live in Galveston, when it happened, it was just the next day. It wasn't like gradually people were like, oh, there's ghosts now. It was the morning after the storm. Galvestonians were like, this place is haunted as fuck now. That's just, and it's been that way ever since. I've had friends that lived in Galveston with their own little horror stories and stuff. And in the right places at the right times, the energy is palpable. But
it does have an energy about it where I feel something.
Yeah.
And you never want to take that kind of lightly because everybody has an intuition sense, women's intuition, whatever. But part of me is like, there is something here, and it's very thick. That's what she said. But still.
Liger, that's spooky. And because this is an ADD-friendly channel, I'm going to address that real quick. So, for people who can't see chat for some reason, Liger just said that he's been at home by himself and had a woman's voice call his name. So, I like rational thinkers, and I like scientists, and I like that their goal is to discredit a lot of paranormal beliefs. That's a good thing. I think that we are better off for not believing in...
And leaving some superstitions behind.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think, especially in the realm of human rights and all that.
That being said, claims like that are way too often discredited as like, how tired were you?
Auditory hallucination.
How stressed? It's an auditory hallucination. And like, I get it. When you didn't experience it yourself, obviously that's how you want to write it off. But I lived in a house that we called them vocal mimics, heavy quotes there, that all the time people would hear conversations, and not like, oh, distant sounds in another room. We would hear just outright talking. You could hear the words, and it would always be somebody you thought you knew. It would sound like it was...
Your dad.
Yeah, my dad's one of my personal stories. But so, Liger, not only is that spooky as hell, also, I know what that's like to go, wait, I'm alone, and then suddenly all your hair stands up on it. And it's like, I get that.
I've heard my mom's voice.
Weird.
Several times. And, of course, that could just be my brain is in habit.
Of course.
But there are times I'm like, I've definitely had experiences in my grandmother's house, and she's had several children. So I'm just like, okay, I'm going back to bed. Good night, good night, good night, good night. Dead aunt.
At first, when you said
died
that...
at 4 or 2 or whatever.
Ooh, spooky.
I know. Okay, but go on.
Yeah, what?
I'll tell you about that later.
At first, when you said that you'd heard your mom's voice, I thought you were just going to be snarky and sarcastic. It'd be like when she's in the kitchen. And I was like, actually, don't do this.
I think everybody, to an extent, has had auditory hallucinations.
Oh, for sure.
But there's moments where it's like, what the fuck?
Oh, yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah, my without even the real story, the most prolific or most intense one that we had in our house was just... we heard my dad yell at our dogs because they were barking, and they all went silent. But my dad wasn't there; it was just me and some of my girlfriends.
The house had had enough.
But hearing all the dogs respond to it was just one of those things of like, I couldn't have made up that shit. Obviously happened. So lighthouses. So obviously, every single topic we ever going to talk about is going to have some element of hauntings in it because it's the most prevalent, most common horror that exists in the psyche of humans. And places like Bolivar Lighthouse in Galveston It itself is a place that we want to go check out, and I'm only putting the name into the show right now purely so that like we don't forget, so that one day we actually go. It itself doesn't have the thing with Galveston ghost stories is they very rarely have their own story. It's all tied up, all of it, in the flood of 1900. The person who was running the lighthouse at the time, because the structure was made completely out of metal, it was a very, very good place to be in for a storm. He had 125 people crammed in this 12-foot diameter structure.
Great, love it. Great idea. Fantastic.
Yeah. Well, it didn't. Luckily, nothing went horribly wrong for them. But they had to stay in the structure the entirety of the storm, and then the entirety of the next day because they really thought there was going to be aftershocks, not earthquake aftershocks, just more storm, and. So imagining the amount, and like anytime I use the word psychic, I just mean mental. Like imagining the psychic trauma of 125 horrified people crammed in a 12-foot diameter tower during a storm that is killing thousands of your neighbors. Like that's what makes a good haunting, man.
And also, with I'm just interrupting you.
No,
sorry.
Please.
With there's a theory. The reason why we see ghosts is we see traumatic imprints on time.
Yeah.
And time is an ongoing thing, and maybe it's a loop. We don't know. Because how do you test time? Like, obviously, Time Travelers hasn't come back and be like, it's real, Bob! Yeah. But, like, to have that kind of like when you go to Holocaust sightings, when you go to other places with mass murder, mass suicide, anything that has such a traumatic imprint, especially in metal, like in kids and children and women, the energy there, no.
Absolutely. Yeah, war zones for sure. Yeah.
War zones, Civil War battlegrounds are notoriously haunted.
Yeah, they're the favorite. They are.
The South is haunted for a reason.
Yeah. Well, it's also, there's a huge difference emotionally between wars that are fought between rivaling countries with people who don't even view each other as being as human as one another sometimes.
And then you have families.
And then you have literal families, turning on each other. And like Civil Wars, man, they like to spit out ghosts. But it makes sense. So this is not even a ghost story. This is just a horrific thing, and I want to talk about it. So deal.
I love it. This is what we're here for.
So
yes, King.
There's this guy named Henry Hall. So in the early mid 1700s, Henry Hall was a lighthouse keeper, and he had two other guys with him, which is rare. Usually at the time, these lighthouses were always manned by two, and part of the reason is they just weren't wide enough to house very many more. In fact, these places, they used to be so small in so many ways that their beds, which were built into the walls, would actually curve with the curvature of the building. They called them banana bunks. So you had to like sleep in like a C shape, which is super fun and comfortable to live there for months.
Did these workers have a history of having anything tied to maritime activities? Like, where did these workers come from? Were they not ex-prisoner? I don't know. Like, what attracted these people to Lighthouse as a job? Besides money and
often it was actually really a lot of them were old. Like a lot of them were old, and very, very, very often it was literally they were past the prime of being able to excel in whatever industry they had denoted their life to. So sometimes, almost an act of charity, people in the community would be like, hey, Lighthouse needs a keeper. Like, it doesn't require a whole lot besides living there constantly. But the thing is when they would get shipped out, earlier I said they didn't have infrastructure a lot of times. So they'd get on a boat, and then it would go and drop them off, and then it would just leave. They didn't have the ability to leave on their own a lot of the times. Once they got dropped off, they knew the next time they'd see people would be maybe once a month shipments of supplies, maybe. And then often they would be forced to stay from 3 to 6 month periods of time. So you just by yourself or with one other person on an island for half the year, and the island itself can't be walked on because it's so small.
And it's usually rocky.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's nothing. And so it's not like some like little romantic getaway. It's literally you're sleeping on your curved banana bunks with some dude.
You can't have a garden. You don't have a library.
You can't do anything.
You don't have anything to have hobbies for. And back then, that's all they really had was just various hobbies.
Yeah.
And you have this rocky island you can't do shit
on at all. And then Henry Hall. So for whatever reason, he had two people with him. I have no idea why. And they were on a lighthouse and living, having their best times, whatever. And this story apparently is true. I could find nothing that claims otherwise. But, like, it's so just kind of ridiculous. And this is not even a supernatural story. This is just so fucking weird. I wanted to talk about it. But there was a fire. And the lighthouse caught fire. And Henry Hall was like, oh, shit. Like, we don't have the ability to escape this. So our only choice is to try to put it out. And the little island that they're on was so incredibly small that there was one little strip of shore you could fit about 5 people on.
Yeah.
But beyond that, like, your choices for, like, being anywhere was that strip or in the lighthouse. And so he...
was the water too rough to just wait it out? And there was no way to get back on the island? There's no ladder?
There's no nothing, no. There's just the lighthouse and the still strip of land. So... he goes in and he's trying to put the fire out, and apparently they built with a lot of lead, and the fire in the upper levels was so hot that the lead was melting, and big gushers, just flowing liquid metal, was just running downwards into the lighthouse. And this genius man, Henry Hall, decides, like, I could definitely put this out. So he's pulling in big buckets of water and looking straight up and splashing the stuff, and apparently a massive amount of liquid flaming lead falls and goes straight down his throat. Which, like, okay, sure, I'll buy this. He then tells one of his compatriots that his insides are on fire. And then he catches on fire.
Wait, does he catch on fire from the inside?
And so, according to them, yes. But so he's dragged outside, and they put him out, and he's alive somehow. And then people saw the lighthouse on fire from the shore. So a boat comes and gets them, and they're all 3 horribly burned. But Henry Hall is bad burns. And he tells the physician, he's talking like very, 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 very hoarse and quietly. He can't talk very well at all. And he tells the physician, like, I get a huge amount of flaming molten lead went straight down my throat.
And he didn't talk?
Yeah, but very, very quiet and hoarse. This is why I said the story is so unbelievable. I love it. And so he tells the guy this, and the doctor's like, okay, clearly the event was very traumatic. He's very burnt, and the man is 94 years old. And this is the early 1700s. So he might as well be fucking 200, right? So the doctor clearly doesn't believe this because, like, that's stupid. It's just like, there's no way that's true. But he tends to his burns, and for a while he's getting better, and then about a week later, he dies. And the entire time, he's telling the doctor, he's like, well, it's because you treat my outside burns, but not my inside ones. And then he dies, and sure enough, they do an autopsy on him, and he's got 9 ounces. That's more than half a pound of lead in him. Just... So apparently he really did just like and swallow flaming liquid and then lived over a week.
What a way to go.
I don't know. As I said, it's not supernatural. I just, while reading it, was like, that's so unbelievable. I love it. I absolutely adore it. But that's Henry Hall. The real reason that I wanted to talk about this particular subject, though, is, are you familiar with the story of Small's Lighthouse?
Where is it located?
It's off of the coast of Wales.
Okay. No.
By like a lot, and it's there was a recent
stuff has
there was a recent movie.
I don't know why.
With Robert Pattinson.
I want to watch that movie.
Okay, so that movie
with the
Willem
goblin.
Dafoe. Yeah.
Willem Dafoe.
So that movie is lightly based off of this event. This event is, so, in my opinion, so fucking horrific. It makes like my skin crawl. And I'm glad that like somebody was like, holy shit, that's an incredible story. Let's make a movie out of it. I have not seen the movie, and I feel bad about it because I've loved the Smalls Lighthouse story forever. But we're just gonna dig into it. So there's 2 men, and
He needed a little lead in his diet. Sorry, I just read what Letter said. He needed a little lead in his diet.
I enjoy that. I enjoyed that a lot. So in 1801, and I'm not going to look at my notes very much. I just want to make sure I got their names right.
Yeah.
There's 2 dudes. They're both named Thomas Griffith and Thomas Howell. Mm-hmm. So they both famously, the town knows it, they do not like each other. Griffith was classically worked at the lighthouse. He had attended the lighthouse on many occasions. And the other man was younger, and he was haughty, and he was kind of full of himself. Some of this is according to legend. The events are true, but a lot of the elements when it talks about their character or even their relationship with each other, a lot of that is more legend. But they didn't like each other, and it was even said that occasionally they would get like fights at the pub and stuff, and like it was well known that they needed to resolve their issues or get a different second guy before the Lighthouse season really started.
Yeah.
But they didn't. It didn't get resolved, and so the main Lighthouse guy had to partner up with Thomas Howell in this lighthouse, and they were going to be out there for 3 months by themselves, and everybody was worried that, like, to put those two together in a tiny 12-foot diameter structure for 3 months is just, one of them was going to kill the other.
Yeah.
So they go out, and they get positioned, and then at the 1 month mark where they're supposed to get their first branch of supplies, the weather gets so bad and so choppy and so stormy that the supply ship is not able to come and bring them supplies. So the two are now trapped in this place, and the storm season, and this is, UK, so rains are common and cold is common, and most lighthouses were only a few miles off the coast. This one was a hilarious instance. You can actually just Google Smalls Lighthouse and see that, like, people couldn't see the lighthouse from the shore.
Because it was so bad.
Because it was so just far from the coast, which meant that there was no great ways for them to signal for help.
Yeah.
So they apparently butt heads and continue to hate each other while working in this lighthouse, and then suddenly the supplies don't come, and for tensions get harder. 20 miles. There we go. Boom. 20 miles offshore. That's a good distance offshore, especially compared to the average lighthouse. So eventually, one of them starts to, and I might have wrong off the top of my head because this is, as I said, a story I really like, so I didn't have to research this, but I might be messing up this detail. I believe that Howell gets sick. I think that's what it is. It might have been an accident. I believe it's sick. Regardless, one of them fucking dies. And when he does, it is actually, like, it is for sure. It was not foul play. It wasn't they argued and they fought and they killed each other. It just happens. So now you're left with, actually, it was the other guy. Hal's the one who survived. There we go. So Griffith died. Thomas Griffith dies. So now it's one man, 20 miles offshore, in a tiny claustrophobic tower in the middle of the ocean.
Going.
Oh,
and
it's good.
This seems to be a theme.
Oh, no, it's not. You would think, right? You would think.
It's not.
It's somehow not cannibalism.
I thought it was going to be cannibalism.
It's actually not.
I was just like, another cannibalism story on this channel? We're obsessed with it.
So he wants to do something with the body. But he realizes that their relationship was so contentious and so well known to be contentious that if he disposes of the body and throws it over, and it washes up on shore, people will know for sure that Thomas Howell murdered Thomas Griffith. So he's like, I can't do that. Like, that would ruin my life. So he decides to keep the body in the lighthouse. And
I get it.
I get it too. So he keeps it, and he keeps expecting, surely the supply guy that just missed us, surely he'll come soon, and then I'll be able to be like, he fucking died. But the weather stays bad. And some bureaucratic mistakes happen on shore, so the ship just doesn't come. So days start passing, and they pass rapidly, and the corpse starts to smell.
Yeah.
And now this man is by himself, just staring down a corpse in a lighthouse as the weather outside is terrible. And he realizes he's not going to be able to survive this smell much longer. But he doesn't want to just put the body outside the lighthouse and have it get, like, eaten by birds or something, because that might look like he was trying to cover up some foul play he did. Like, he really did murder this guy. So he dismantles some of the things they have, and uses some of his supplies, and he builds a coffin. And he puts Thomas Griffith in the coffin. And then he puts it out. The island it's on is actually so narrow, you can't even put the coffin out there. He has to put it, you know how when you imagine a lighthouse, it's got that like walkway around the top outside. Mm-hmm. He straps the coffin to the outside of the building on that walkway and just ties it to it. And now he has to live near a dead man for as many days as it's going to take. But the days keep passing, and help keeps not coming.
He has no food at this point.
He's rationing. He's rationing. But he's not doing well.
He can't swim?
And psychic.
The 20 miles?
20 miles? Easy 20 mile swim. his psyche's starting to break a little, because literally it's just him and the corpse of his enemy. That's it. And then the storms get so incredibly bad one day that, just as luck would have it, because sometimes life likes to be poetic, the coffin breaks in a storm in such a way where the arm of Thomas Griffith is freed. And then every time the wind blows up big, the arm is lifted and knocks on the glass. Like the fucking Telltale Heart. I love it. So Thomas Howell, who considered himself a tough man, he starts literally talking to the corpse. And in some instances, believing that Griffith wanted in. That, like, if he let Griffith back in, it would be a thing. My favorite thing is there's accounts of various sailors and ships passing by the island and seeing on the outside of the ship, seeing an arm waving as they pass and being like, oh, good, everything's fine at Lighthouse, no one needs any help because somebody's waving us past. But it was just this arm caught in the wind with rigor mortis.
Decaying arm.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But at this great distance. So Thomas Howell watched salvation pass this little lonely island over and over and over as the very thing that was driving him mad was signaling to others that everything was okay. So by the time...
That's petty.
I love
it. That's petty in the afterlife. I'm going to live to be that petty where I hate someone so much my corpse is going to keep them from getting help. I love that. I'm a fan of this guy.
Me too. But... ultimately, help did arrive, and when it came, he was able to prove that no foul play had happened because he did keep the body. It was the right move, but apparently the short remainder of his life, he was completely broken. Like a classic Lovecraft story, his time in the lighthouse had completely shattered his sanity, just having to live
when
with his corpse.
There's a dead person knocking on your window,
asking to be let in.
I think it's very tenuous at best that you would be okay.
Yeah.
And if you're okay, you're... What is that? Guardian, hi
Guardian.
Thank you for following. How are you doing, love?
But yeah, as I said, it's not supernatural, but it's just such a good story. It's so spooky. And it sounds like something fucking Edgar Allan Poe would write.
Yeah.
Now, in much more important stories, you hear about this walrus over New Year's?
Okay, did y'all hear about this guy? Did y'all hear about this walrus? Hands up. Tell a story. It's the best.
Guardian Andrew, that's right. We covered that in the beginning.
Yeah, my tail.
Yeah. She is, in fact, a mermaid. We have proof. All right, so here's why I have a reason I'm bringing this up, this walrus. I promise it makes sense. So, my favorite thing about folklore, all of it, is like so many like holidays and holy days, they're lost to us. We don't know why we started celebrating them. We just do. We have theories as to why we do. And there's so many ancient pagan rituals and sometimes even pre-pagan rituals that today we celebrate with gusto. Well, this year in the UK, I don't remember where in the UK, there was going to be this big old fireworks show. And this is my favorite kind of spooky story. So spooky, this one. There's going to be a big fireworks show. And, hey, Guardian Andrew, I don't know what you look like, but you're not a walrus. And I know that because there's no way in hell you have tusks.
And I'm not ignoring you. I'm just making sure I have a story ready to go.
So this town was going to have a big fireworks celebration for New Year's. And then a day before New Year's happens, suddenly a walrus shows up, which isn't a common thing to see in the British Canal, but there you go. Here's a walrus. And so the town was like, all right, for the sake of this beautiful creature, we're going to cancel our fireworks show for his safety, and we're going to cordon him off and protect him. So then the walrus chilled for a whole 24 hours. And then people were like, hell, we're not going to have fireworks. At least we can go see a walrus. So everybody went to the town, and there were big crowds. And then right before New Year's, it actually happened, and people would actually all be there for this walrus. He saw the glorious crowd surrounding him, and then he masturbated vigorously, and then he left. And the reason that I bring...
He didn't even have an OnlyFans. He gave it to us for free. No paywall.
This walrus is a fucking godsend and champion. And the reason I bring it up, though, I was talking to Rachel about this. Had this event occurred in like the 1500s.
It would have been a...
There is no 100% chance that on that day every year there'd be like a walrus festival. People would think that some like river god had blessed them with this. And like, I love that. I think that's a beautiful thing.
And then a woman would have ended up pregnant the next day.
Yeah, and it would have been like, it's the walrus's baby.
Instead of her just trying to admit.
And even though I think it's good that we've like evolved past a lot of superstition, it also kind of bums me out that like this, in 2 years, no one's going to remember this masturbating walrus.
Yeah, I don't.
I kind of miss when we would see things and our eyes were so filled with wonder, we would go, you know what? That's fucking Poseidon. That walrus.
He was Poseidon.
That was Poseidon.
And three women ended up pregnant.
And we're blessed by him masturbating in front
of us. And then coincidentally, all 3 of those babies had webbed toes.
Yeah.
It's just...
Yeah. But that's not the way it works anymore. And that's a good thing. But in this instance, it made me sad. And I think next year we should celebrate this.
Do you want to dress up like a walrus costume?
I want to do something walrusy. We can even do it on here, just as long as we're not like masturbating. But we could do... I feel like Twitch isn't quite the right channel for that.
No, it's probably not, which is good. We want to... Somebody do well.
But something walrusy. Something...
I think it should be a tradition. I think
we need a good festival name for it.
We would have... The Walrus Dong, Ding Dong, Ding Dong Walrus, Ding Dong Walrus Festival. I don't know if for some reason Dong just popped up in my head.
Have you watched Eurovision recently? Maybe that's why.
Oh gosh,
the movie, not this show.
I want to see it.
It's really dumb, but I loved it.
But that's Will Ferrell.
Oh yeah. No, it's a classic Will Ferrell vehicle. Yeah.
Okay. Over the holidays, we watched A Christmas Karen, and it's probably now one of my favorite holiday movies. And it actually was just like, I learned a lot. I learned a lot from this. And nobody has to be, you can be called a Karen, but you want to be a Karen. And help the girl next door with cancer. And give her dolls. Give her all your mom's dolls.
And give her a skateboard with a hot anime chick on it.
Can I tell you one of my favorite ghost stories?
Please.
My ghost ships? Okay. So I was looking into ghost ships, and there are 2 types of ghost ships, really.
Right.
Ones that are portents of doom and they're illusions, such as the Flying Dutchman. The Flying Dutchman didn't really come from a ship. It just happens to be, it just predates like 17th century.
Very old.
And you guys probably know the Flying Dutchman from Pirates of the Caribbean. It has a huge presence in media. And really, it's supposedly how it like, hold on, I actually wrote this down. How blah, blah, blah. I have so many notes, so I apologize if I'm just running.
You're so good.
I know I'm so good. But the common story is that the Dutchman came to the Cape in distress of weather and wanted to get in harbor, but could not get a pilot to conduct her and was lost. And ever since in very bad weather, her vision appears like a sign, like you need to go, you need to get away. And it's funny because people want to say it's a reflection of the water in the sky from like ships you just don't see. But then why does that ship in the 21st century look like
an old schooner?
Or whatever. And then you also have ships such as the Mary Celeste, where nobody was found on board, or everybody's dead.
Yeah,
or the SS Iran.
Those types of ghost ships are my favorite.
I'm going to tell you.
Yeah, please.
My favorite.
And also just to add a little bit of light on that second type. Yeah. So the second type of ghost ship is not necessarily paranormal, but might be.
It's terrifying.
It's just when people find ships that are usually still in perfect condition, but everything is missing. Like every person on it is missing.
But you see, we talk about haunted ships, but we don't talk about haunted canoes.
What? Oh! You found a ghost canoe? Yes! Okay, I don't know any ghost canoe stories.
This is Acadiana.
I'm so excited.
This is Canada. And Acadiana is where my family's from because my family got kicked out of France, so they got
right.
And I'm like, I don't know why. And it is a haunted canoe doomed to paddle the skies of the Quebec. And it's a French-Canadian tale.
Oh, I love
and
this.
And it's really popular among lumberjacks, right? And so hold on, I have to get
Liger.
So
there's
good.
a real chance that you and I owned the same book because
probably.
I've been interested in the weird my entire life, but the Bermuda Triangle, and I can for whatever reason
we're gonna talk about that.
That's
his thing.
That was literally one of my all-time #1 like favorite obsessions as a little kid, and it all started with this classic book fair. So I feel you.
But if you guys want to get more into this, the Shafts Gallery, because the story is quite ridiculous. I love it, and it is on Wikipedia. But what it is, it's so one night, Canadian night, where a group of lumberjacks really wanted to visit their sweethearts, like 500 kilometers away, because this is Canada.
Okay.
And so the only way to make such a long journey and be back in time for work the next morning is to run the Chasse Gallery. And the Chasse Gallery was a haunted canoe that could fly through the sky that was powered by the devil.
Love it.
Now, you must not mention, when you take the Chasse Gallery, you must not mention God's name, not even in vain. And because it winds through the tops of houses in churches, you cannot touch a steeple, right?
Right.
So, of course, like, yeah, devil, yeah, we'll take this fucking canoe. And, of course, how the canoe came to be was due to some guy who didn't go to church and... he was condemned to fly forever through the night skies. But the thing is, if you break your vow not to say anything about God or touch a steeple, devil will take your souls. Now, these guys, these ragamuffins, they take their flying canoe.
I love it.
This is the best.
No, it's so good.
I found this. I'm like, this is my new favorite ghost
I didn't
story.
know
Fuck
that.
the Flying Dutchman, Chasse Gallery all the way. And also, it's. Oh, hold on. What's the word? It's practical. Meaning they gotta go fucking get drunk and fuck. They gotta go 500 kilometers away. And so what they do is they they party with their lasses, with their beautiful ladies, and they get a little drunk, right? And the story can end several ways. So anyways, these guys, they're a little drunk, they get in, they notice the main guy who's steering the canoe is very drunk. And he starts taking God's name in vain. So they're like, shut. And
don't do that on the flying canoe.
How they knew he was drunk was he was steering and he almost hit a chapel. He almost hit a steeple, which is a big no-no on the flying devil canoe.
Right.
And so...
I love it.
So terrified, the devil will take their souls. The men then bind and gag their friend to elect another steer. The navigator soon breaks his bonds and begins swearing again. So the crew becomes more and more... And I'm just reading at this point because it's just ridiculous. The crew became more and more shaken at the possibility of losing their souls. And they accidentally steered the bewitched canoe right into a tall pine and are knocked unconscious. Now, the end of the story, there's several different endings that exist where they do lose their souls, or they trick the devil into not losing their souls, or it's like some kind of test. And another variation has the devil himself steering and deliberately trying to break the rules on the return journey, at which point they throw them out of the canoe. They throw the fucking devil out of the canoe.
Yeah,
like,
fuck
go
you.
fuck yourself.
Yeah.
So you hear about the Flying Dutchman, you hear about other little things, and there are haunted canoes in various rivers in Canada for
adding
Native
that flying
Americans.
element though. That's fantastic.
I think that's my favorite story.
I can't believe I've never heard about that. That's so good.
Well, I'm Acadiana, but then again, I'm not proper Acadiana. I don't live in Nova Scotia. I don't have the lumberjack heritage in me, which is a huge part of Acadiana culture, but there are several ships that are canoes that haunt in Canada because that's just their culture is lumberjack. I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite ghost story about a ship. I think they're all kind of the same.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. The Flying Dutchman's the template. It's the great win.
But it's the haunted canoe that gets me.
Yeah, that's delightful.
And it sounds like a Disney. And it turns out it was a ride at a Canadian amusement park, and they just shut it down. I think in 2016.
Bummer.
And if it was real, because it had the devil in that going.
So we'll never get to experience it ourselves.
I know, but that has to be my favorite ghost story. But what we really want to get to is the Mary Celeste.
Yeah.
Or the SS Orang. And I discovered the SS Orang. And it's even debated if it was even real.
Yeah.
But it is very creepy, and I think it's a great inspiration for media. Like, I'm sure we all remember the movie Ghost Ship.
Yep.
That intro was hot. That was awesome.
Well, which is kind of unfortunate because it's almost the only good part of the movie.
I know. But I mean, it came in hot. So.
When did Ghost Ship come out?
I don't remember. 2000 something?
Yeah,
it had to
2002.
Was it the early 2000s where scary movies were magical?
And horrible. I loved them, but God, they were bad.
So,
Ghost Ship being like a prime example.
So the Mary Celeste is, first of all, just for those of you who don't know the Mary Celeste, let me go ahead and cover Mary Celeste. It's best known for being discovered adrift in the Atlantic Ocean off the Azores Island, right in 1872. And the Brigantine de Gracia found her, and she was fine.
Okay.
She was wet, it was a little dirty, but she was fine. She was seaworthy. And the last entry in her log was 10 days before they found her. And also the lifeboat was missing. So big clue right there. Like, oh, what happened? But the lifeboat's missing. Then again, I don't know how big the lifeboat is.
Yeah, how many people it would carry.
Yeah,
right.
maybe they had 10 people on the ship but could only carry 5. And the captain did have his wife and daughter, or like pregnant wife on board. So like, of course we're going to get my fucking wife out of here. And of course the cargo of alcohol was intact. And I'm like, why don't you take the alcohol? But like, so... None of those, but the thing is, none of those who were on board were never seen or heard from again.
Yep.
So you'd think, like, okay, they got the lifeboat, they got to shore, they would have said something. So there's theories that include ghost stories, water spouts,
yep.
Aliens, paranormal,
always,
and then pirates, just pirates. But then if pirates came, why would you leave all this shit behind?
Yeah,
why
all the alcohol stuff. Yeah, all the things of value.
So what caused, like, giant squid? You know, maybe they were trying to get away. But then that leads into the SS are wrong. And hold on, let me find it. But this is my favorite thing is the creepy crawly, like, what happened. Because, yeah, Flying Dutchman's so cool.
Yeah.
Flying Canoe, fucking love it.
Yeah.
It's just stories. And it probably is reflections off the sea, but I don't like to think that. I like to think it's just I'm special.
Yeah, of course.
Just the fucking bewitched canoe, sorry.
No, it's good.
So,
it's so good.
In 1947, what happens is let me get my thoughts together.
You're fine. You're good.
I'm way too fast. The SS Orang Medan, 2 American ships, while passing through the Strait of Malacca, went off on a rescue mission after receiving a distress call from the SS Orang. And if I'm saying it wrong, I apologize. The caller came to be a crew member and conveyed the message of the death of everyone else on board. Like, everybody's dead at this point. He's the only guy. And then his words weirdly ended with, I die. He just says, I'm done. I'm gone. I gotta go.
It's very Shakespearean.
And the rescuers found the ship unharmed, but the entire crew, including the dog, dead with terrified faces.
Love it. Love it.
I'm trying not to touch myself on camera. Why does that excite me?
Because it's awesome.
Why does that excite me?
Because awesome things are exciting.
And expressions. And the thing is, there's iffiness on whether Orang really existed. Maybe it was another boat. But that's the kind of horror stories I like.
Yeah.
Where the crew's dead, the ship's been abandoned because you never really know if no one's there. Like, why is it like? Was it a gas leak maybe? But why are they all terrified?
Yeah.
Because then you just go to sleep.
Right.
And then you have other ghost stories like the Queen Mary,
of course.
Queen Mary, 1936, like 1967 or something. I assure you the dates are wrong.
That's
I even
fine.
visited the Queen Mary at a Twitch party.
What?
But nothing haunted happened to me.
Oh, of course.
But the thing is, I think there's even contention with people inside the company because they're pushing the hauntings instead of like the learning of Queen Mary and the history of it. They're like, it's haunted. Come to stay and get haunted.
Yeah.
And everything that's been logged. They have a book of the dead. So they have every death recorded. And people who are like, oh, this person got killed and this thing. They're like, no, that person never existed. That person died.
Right, like we literally
in
have
Nevada.
that. So the USS Lexington's a little bit similar. So in Corpus Christi, forever and ever and ever and ever, the U.S. battleship, the USS Lexington, is there, and it was a very important ship.
We should do that. We should go.
It's very fun. I've been and
I would like
stayed,
to
and it was.
I was sad. I went to Queen Mary, and I didn't stay long enough. It was just for a party, and half the time I was in the carnival in front of it. But nothing scary happened.
Yeah.
And,
So the Lexington is considered it's treated as a haunted vessel. It's a classic, modern ghost ship.
Yeah.
And its name was the Gray Ghost, which I just love the fact that you have this silly ship that people are claiming is haunted, but its nickname already had ghosts in it. It knew its goddamn destiny.
do you think it was?
Yeah, it knew.
Yeah.
So, but the Gray Ghost. When I was in Boy Scouts, when I was younger, we did a stay there, and it actually very much the same. Where the haunt element wasn't aggressively overpushed, but there was a ghost tour before you actually stayed in bunked, and during it they're telling these tales that even as a kid I was just I'm pretty good at sniffing out a real ghost story and one that is designed to sell tickets.
Yeah, I think Queen Mary, you could have smelled it. This is just designed to sell.
There was
rooms.
There was this one particular story that I won't even spend too much time on. I just thought it was so wonderfully over top, talking about how when they were smelting the big anchor for the ship, how there was like a lover's quarrel between some of the workers at the ironworks facility, and one of the men threw another man into the liquid.
Was that his lover? Was it a gay lover?
Sadly, nah. This is the 90s, so I doubt that they.
It was going to be that obvious.
Yeah, but they threw a man into the liquid iron that was going to be cast into the anchor, and rumor has it his body's all mangled up in the ore of the fucking anchor. There we go. I couldn't think of the word. And like as a kid, like great story. That's fantastic. But like also, there's no goddamn way. Like I. And then as an adult, there's been a few times where one of those stories will pop into my head, and I'll immediately just go like, "Can I find any record of this shit they were trying to peddle on me when I was a kid?" But
and I think, unfortunately, like most of these ships that were found dead crew, they've been retired. You can't see them, you can't visit them, you can't get a feel for them.
I think the Lexington was. Yeah, so that Langer, how did you just know stuff? I love it. So that story,
what's fucking Lexington?
That story was also straight up told. The difference though is that one wasn't one I could immediately and easily refute, unlike the Anchor story, which was very easy to not find any record on. Yeah.
And I've seen pictures where people obviously edited, like, supposedly face of ghosts, because there was a story about two crew members who suffered, and the name of the ship escapes me, but they suffocated, and they had to be buried at sea, and then supposedly someone took a picture, and their faces were there. And
yeah. That is actually one thing that's a real...
old school Photoshop.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer that we do exist in an age in which it is so easy to create fakes. And I don't just mean that for, like, unfortunately it means a ton of fakes exist. But also the vice versa.
Yeah.
Of we could see the most damning photographic evidence ever and be like, okay...
What is this?
It's like, it's clearly photoshopped. Like, if a person's, to be overly dramatic about it, if a person took a picture of the literal devil, you'd be like, great costume. And that's a bummer. Like, it even ties back to me just being like, I wish that the ability to
I think that's what's going to happen is something will happen and we'll just assume it's a joke.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. But I feel like we have to go to Lexington.
Yeah, well, actually, I think it finally got fully retired. Now
the ship?
Yeah, I think so. I might be wrong, but I think
in Queen Mary was retired quite a while ago.
So, nope, it is still open.
Where is it located? Lexington?
It's always been Corpus Christi. Let's see if that's still the case, too. Hey,
excuse me, guys.
No, you're good. It is somewhere... It's still Corpus Christi. Nice.
How far away is Corpus from here?
It doesn't matter because Crispy has a beach house there.
We're going.
So we can just stay at Crispy's beach house.
Yes, we have a friend named Crispy.
Yeah. And he would...
we won't tell him. We're just going to show up and be like, yeah, we have some shit to do.
Well, it's actually his family's, so...
Oh, who cares?
It'll be fine.
So, do any of y'all know of any interesting hauntings or stories that we possibly have missed? Because when I researched this information, it was pages and pages and pages, and it's fascinating.
Yeah, but it's also hard to Google, and unlike some other things, because it's a niche, strange kind of thing.
Like, if you're talking about ghost ships, you have the Princess Augusta, you have the Young Teaser, you have the Eliza Bell. It's insane how much is.
I am unfamiliar with Kenyon College.
What is Kenyon College? Ooh, educate us.
And while you work on educating us on that, this wasn't even in my notes. I just, I have to say it because it's fun. Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with the very ridiculous urban legend of the Philadelphia experiment?
It rings a bell. Go on.
Okay. All right. That's okay. We may be asking for water themed, but throw us Kenyon College anyway.
No, like,
ADD channel.
Like this is an open source bullshit.
We don't care. This is only an excuse for Ashley and I to get together and talk about weird shit for 2 hours a week.
Yeah,
that's it. It doesn't got to be on topic.
And if people want to hop on and join us, and we want to hear your stuff because we know. I have his experiences, and he knows some of mine, but it's more interesting when everybody's like, holy shit, so this thing fucking happened. And it's more fun.
Totally.
It's fun.
Absolutely.
And also, I mean, we're mermaids.
Yeah. Well, you're a mermaid.
I know. I'm just
a beautiful water creature.
I'm going to get him in a mermaid. I mean, I'm gonna have you wear the cheaper one if you don't mind.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So
the $200 one instead of the $500 to $800 one.
Oof.
I need to start streaming on my Twitch again to get those tips back up.
So, Philadelphia Experiment
Okay.
is a thing that I was that walrus, and it was glorious. But unfortunately, I'm back in America, no longer canceling fireworks. It's a real shame.
I do think it's a great idea.
I got no tips either.
Wear walrus costumes every New Year. I just don't know if we can masturbate. I don't think our friends would like that.
We can watch Tusk.
No. Okay.
But we can.
We can. We can watch Tusk. I haven't watched that movie. Oh. I don't know if I want to watch it, but I'll watch it for you. We watched Cats. Did we tell you all this?
Oh, is Guardian offended by you not wanting to watch Tusk? I hope that's why you're offended, because it's a good reason.
But okay, so
I already made you watch Cats, though.
I know, but I was drunk, and there's no way I will ever watch that movie sober.
You shouldn't watch it sober.
You can't watch it sober. You can't watch Cats sober.
So, on the topic of battleships, Philadelphia Experiment.
Yes.
For many, many, many years was purported, especially in like conspiracy theory circles and just people who are kind of into that camp of like, I want to believe. It was just kind of spoken of as fact for a long time, but fact that the government was covering up. There's no goddamn way this is true. There's just not. But the Philadelphia Experiment, if it was true, went like this. Basically, there was an experiment done based in some of Einstein's theories surrounding World War II. So I believe in the 40s is when they say all this occurred. The USS Philadelphia, that ship, got selected to be the subject of a top secret experiment in which the U.S. government was going to use basically incredible amounts of power, like unprecedented amounts of power, to attempt to bend light. And the goal was to try to create invisibility cloak almost, but not like how we'd think about it today, but like literally bend light around the object in such a way where it just could not be perceived. But this was all tied to unified field theory, which is this whole concept that it eludes and escapes physicists on all levels, which is unified field theory is just this concept of like taking all the different fields that exist within physics and finding the theory, almost the theory of everything, that will let them one-to-one talk to each other.
Yeah.
So like when you're talking about energy and particles, it all
like folding on itself.
Yeah, all schools of physical thought could exist in one bucket, and if you could understand the theory of everything really, really well, you'd be able to basically master or understand any element of physics, right? So in unified field theory, they were basically saying that like we could use what we know about energy to bend light in a way that's, funny enough, these days isn't that science fiction-y, but back then, it's super possible.
And this was when, like
1940s.
40s.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
So they're going to bend light around the ship to make it invisible, and they do this experiment on the USS Philadelphia, and it works. The ship is keep in mind, all hyper classified, super secret shit here. The ship, for a few moments, disappears, and all that is really visible in where it's currently stationed is like almost a green mist. It's not actually green, it's not actually mist, but basically you can see that there is...
Is it kind of like what with the color magenta?
Not existing at all, which is my favorite shit in the world.
Yeah, but it's also who's that author that is insane with eldritch horror?
Lovecraft.
It's kind of like a Lovecraft color because
color
sorry, that's
just green.
My brain went to there.
Oh, for sure. Hi,
Crispy. Hey, honey, how you doing? We're just talking about creepy shit at sea. Our favorite.
So. So apparently the ship disappears for a moment and it's only visible via this green mist, and then when it snaps back into reality, the crew that were on the ship, which were part of the experiment to see, because what's the point of a ship you can cloak if you can't have people on it? Yeah. Some of the crew has gone missing. Some of them have.
So in the span of it being.
Right.
Okay.
Some of them have gone mad. Some of them are temporarily like frozen in place. Some of them are fused into the ship hull and stuff, like their hand is part of the ship. And for years and years and years and years, conspiracy theories
Merged into the bulkhead.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like literally the thing. The Philadelphia experiment was a very, very, very well-known government cover-up for the longest time. And what I love about this is, today we can track how this urban legend came into being. We kind of know the who of like who very first ever claimed that this happened and whatnot. We can track how it got disseminated to become a big common thing. But what I love about it is it's actually a perfect modern day ghost ship story. Because it's literally like in the age of the atom. It's people aren't as spiritual anymore. We're not as superstitious. So if you're gonna tell a ghost ship story, like instead it's gonna be science gone array. It's gonna be the workings of radiation we don't understand yet, and like even the ship disappearing and only being visible via green mist. Like it's still all the classic, like the ghost ship rolling in with the fog. It's the same imagery, just drawn in a completely modern way. The thing that's really frustrating about the Philadelphia experiment is that even though it is almost certainly total bullshit, man,
that bums me out.
There are still so many conspiracy theorists that just like this one they hold on to. They want
because it's fascinating.
It's so fun.
They gotta have something.
Yeah.
Like if you're a flat earther, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
But like this, because it's not exactly like it's just like it could happen.
Yeah.
It could happen.
Yeah. Well, also it's funny too because it used to kind of be spoken of in the same breath as a lot of the. Okay, so I almost brought that up, the teleportation. That isn't in every account of it, and it's not in the original account that was scribbled into the notes of a journal that was sent to the military, but it became a big part of it, and also makes the fusing to the bulkhead and stuff make a lot more sense, because, like, if flight got meant, things got turned invisible, why are guys fusing to the ship? But in some versions of it, the ship literally, when it disappeared, it didn't just become invisible, it disappeared.
Yeah.
And then reappeared at a completely different harbor, bajillion miles away. And then, in a few seconds later, came back. Which does make some of the elements of disappearance and fusion make some sense. Because you're like, oh, it's teleportation gone awry, gone wrong. But that's not in the very classic version of it. But it's, I don't know, I love the Philadelphia experiment. As a kid, I was like, I wanted it to be real so bad. Especially because I love the concept of the big Stranger Things style, shadowy, evil government doing crazy evil things. Not to say, who fucking knows, people aren't. But I love...
I'm sure there's shit going on.
I love the 80s villain version. That's so fun, so good.
Also, it's 1946, so it has that era of Nazism. Like, Nazis have, like, do this. And
Project Paperclip, and which is a real conspiracy theory that is not a conspiracy theory because it actually happened. And that's actually what I was about to say, was that the Philadelphia experiment used to be spoken of in the same breath as, like, Mark Ultra, MK Ultra, and stuff. And
was
like,
that proven to be true?
Yeah, it's all real.
That's what I thought.
That's all. And same
Bermuda
with
Triangle's real.
And same with Project Paperclip is totally real.
I haven't heard of this one.
So Project Paperclip is something that for years and years and years, conspiracy theorists were like, this happened! And people were like, silly tinfoil hat guys. But it did happen, and it is real, and it's conclusive now, and you can just go look, and it's completely declassified. Which was after World War II was over. There was tons of Nazi scientists that were going to be tried at the Nuremberg trials and tried for crimes against humanity and stuff. And America went, hey, scientists, those evils you were committing would look pretty good over here. And then just hired a ton of Nazi scientists, gave them new names and new passports and new everything.
It's sad how many breakthroughs we had during the most horrific times in history. It's like,
oh yeah. Well,
and the Volkswagen Beetle. Another
horrific
historical incident.
The thing is, though, with science, when you remove morality from science,
a lot can be done.
You
can build anything in a day if you have enough people to die for you.
Exactly. No, it makes sense that art we make great breakthroughs in big times of evil. It's unfortunate, but it also makes perfect sense. But Project Paperclip was also tied to MK Ultra, and MK Ultra for years, if you just even brought it up, people were like, "Oh, you stupid, you super fucking conspiracy theorist," and like that shit's not only all real, but some of it's hilarious.
Think, why is this masturbate?
Yeah. Okay, I'll be fair. I did not know walruses masturbated.
Everybody masturbates.
Yeah, but most animals don't. The list used to be really
If
short.
dolphins can masturbate.
Yeah, but dolphins is smart. They smart.
I mean, come on. The walrus is fat and living life. Like, he's probably smarter than us.
I mean, he's living his life better than us. That's for sure. And that's why Project Paperclip makes my skin crawl, though, is because, we totally saved them. We exonerated them from their crimes secretly without letting people know we were exonerating them from their crimes, which is fucked up. And if the Philadelphia experiment did happen, some paperclip scientists were involved in that shit.
We'll have to actually, for the next episode, and we don't mind taking your suggestions for this. We'd actually love that because there's so many things to cover, but it's like, which one? I think conspiracy theories that turn out to be true is
hell
such a
yeah!
great one.
Talking about MK Ultra would make me so
we can do
happy.
both. We can do both. We can do stuff that was proven to be wrong, stuff that was proven to be right, stuff that's still up in the air. We can just have, but I feel like a conspiracy theory episodes would have to span almost 2 to 3 episodes.
True. But we could narrow it down. There's some fun ones I do like.
Our ADHD is definitely a huge draw for this show, but at the same time, it's like, wait, we have to save it.
It is something we have to work against.
We have to save the acorns.
That's unfortunately very, very, very true.
But there is something. And I'll let you finish your thought.
No, you're right.
But this is something. Kyle's going to talk about something I have loved since I was a kid. Is the Bermuda Triangle, and I think it's very real.
Yeah, so
and it is real.
It's
real.
So I'm gonna mostly just looking at our clock here. I'm gonna talk about
30 minutes.
Yeah, you're good. Well, I'm actually for my sake, I'm gonna talk about this in a fairly truncated way, and then maybe one day we'll do a Bermuda Triangle episode just because the list is so long of things that have happened.
Yeah. So we may do a part 2.
Yeah, in a little bit of a shape. So those who know it, I feel like in the '90s it came up all the goddamn time. I don't know why, but like. I was led to believe the Bermuda Triangle would be a much bigger problem in my life. Just like quicksand, yeah. But unfortunately, COINTELPRO, huge. Super huge. But ultimately, for those who are unfamiliar with the triangle, it's not the only one, for the record, just to let you know. It is a contested shape in the ocean, and that shape happens to kind of be a triangle. In which mysterious stuff happens. Does that sound incredibly vague?
Yes.
That's because it is. Mysterious stuff can mean anything, and the upside downside of talking about the Bermuda Triangle at all, and for the record, I'm very bad at saying Bermuda. It's I have a speech impediment, and it only comes up sometimes, but words with R's and silly spots fuck me up. Bermuda. The Bermuda. So the Bermuda Triangle.
Bermuda.
This triangle, nobody just arbitrarily decided.
It's a great skit. I'm sorry, a travel host who can't say the words. Like, we're going to talk about the Bermuda. I'm sorry.
Triangle. So,
I don't know why that tickled me.
No one just because it's good. No one decided that it was a triangle just arbitrarily. The basically, as stuff happened at sea, and both with ships and with planes and with airlines or whatever. If you basically just pinned them all to a board, it just started to get noticed that it was happening in this space. Mm-hmm. And that space was roughly a triangle. Now, I'm about to say so much shit that sounds aggressively contradictory, and that's because it is. A lot of the sources surrounding the stuff is little better than just hearsay. And in some ways, myth, just modern myth. But in this triangle, people have been known to describe sightings, incredibly high ratings of seeing UFOs.
And that's also where a lot of ships like that's something I wanted to cover too.
Well, that's the brunt of it. That's the main part of it. But people spot UFOs. It's where Columbus saw his mermaids. It's where
they saw masturbating walrus.
My favorite type of ghost ships, the ones that aren't ghost ships, or just ships where everyone's missing but the ship is still floating.
Yeah.
The Bermuda Triangle loves to have those, like at hilarious rates. A a huge amount of very important or very well documented planes entering the triangle and then never being heard from or seen from again. Shipping freighters and various ships entering the triangle, never being seen or heard from again. Or my favorite, ones entering the triangle, people losing contact with them, and then the ship coming out as a ghost ship 30 to 50 years later. The thing with the triangle is, though all this stuff is very, very interesting, and I love it, it's not actually the only triangle like this on Earth. There's another one on the exact opposite end of the globe called the Devil's Triangle.
Yep.
Or that's a name for it, which is associated with Japanese shipping and whatnot. And it has basically the exact same stuff. If you like go and really look at accounts that have happened in it, it is disappearing ships, disappearing planes, things that have gone missing being refound, UFO sightings, sightings of strange animals or strange animal noises that don't belong in that season. People have seen penguins in the triangle, penguins, whatever. But penguins only live in the southern hemisphere, and they also only live close to the South Pole or at the bottom of continents. Bermuda Triangle.
I feel like it's a rift. Like it's our own personal rift.
So, yeah, exactly. And things that some people have said that the Devil's Triangle and the Bermuda Triangle are connected, which is my, do I believe it? Probably not. Do I love it? Oh, I love that. That's so fun. And for people who follow or believe in or have a good understanding of ley lines and where they have been laid out for a long time, both triangles fit into ley lines in ways that are fun to look at, because the triangle kind of got associated as this shape with people who literally knew nothing of spirituality. It started to pop up in conversations between government officials and, honestly, shipping companies who were like, what the fuck is happening to this triangle?
You're losing money, you're losing people, you're losing ships, something's gonna happen.
So the identification of the triangle didn't happen with people who were like, oh, I bet it's the intersection of three ley lines. But it does line up pretty nicely. Yet again, do I believe any of this? Probably not. And is all of this perfectly accurate? Probably not. All the sources that speak on this triangle, the triangle's shape and its exact position, its exact size, is hugely contentious because there's no individual landmarks. It is the shape of whatever the storyteller needs it to be in that moment. And there are some really mundane theories as to why the triangle happens. Mundane, boring theory number one, that's probably the truth, is if you look at the South of America, just the southern part of the U.S.
Yeah.
And Mexico.
Yeah.
And the top of South America.
Yeah, it's triangle.
And you put the triangle as this entryway that is avoiding the islands that are there. Obviously, a lot of ships are going to move through there. Yeah. Like, a lot. So if you're just using, numbers, the likelihood of things going missing, it's going to seem like you're encountering an incredibly huge amount of disappearances. But realistically, the ship traffic is so much higher.
Yeah.
Because even though that space of ocean is wide, for the purpose of shipping, it's not. It is an entry point, it's a gateway point to all this massive Gulf Coast. It's this big, giant circle. So, of course weird shit's going to happen. Weird shit happens all over the globe, but when you force everybody to use one pathway, it's going to happen more often. Does that explain how incredibly high UFO sightings in the triangle are?
Now, what kind of UFO sightings are recorded? Is it like saucer? Is it lights? Is
both.
It... Okay.
Saucers, lights, and cigars. Which cigars, for people who don't know, are a type of UFO that are, instead of, imagine you're looking at a flying saucer from the front, except that's not what you're looking at. It's literally like a sausage or like a cigar, and it flies like this. It's a very just type UFO.
It's like being swung.
There's also there's a type of, I don't know to call it a cryptid or not. I don't know, but there's a type of I'm going to say cryptid. I don't know if that's how people classify it. There's a thing. A lot of people just call them rods, but they're these 6-winged, thin, They're very strange.
Yeah.
They're like see-through dragons. Is a really stupid description of them.
So is it like a dragonfly?
Yeah, except they're UFOs.
Do you know what they're called?
They're just called rods.
Rods.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you mind if I look it up?
Yeah, sure. That might not be the best way to look it up, but it might. Just type rod UFO wings. Type that all in, you might find it. But ultimately, the sightings of stuff that we already consider really strange everywhere else is just really common there. Do we have... Yeah, thank you, Gilded Lady. Or if you do, at least turn save results off, at the very, very least.
Well, I mean, look. It says Bidwell.
Yeah.
No,
yeah, there we go.
I see it right here.
Good.
It's like an aquatic creature.
Yeah, it's really very strange. But they
look at me.
They fall into UFOs. When we talk about UFOs, we always focus way too much on them being alien spacecraft, and not on the fact that all it means is unidentified flying objects.
Yeah.
And so rods are a type of UFO.
Looks like insects.
Yeah, they do. They look like bugs.
They look like this, exactly. They look like...
Yeah, no, like they straight up look like bugs or a type of sea creature. Very strange. My other little thing about the Bermuda Triangle, because as I said, I didn't want to spend an incredible amount on it because it almost deserves its own episode when it comes to individual events that have occurred. Something that I do really enjoy about it is, for years and years and years, the accounts of sailors, very, very respected sailors, entering the Bermuda Triangle, and then all of their equipment going very, very haywire, from things that were magnetic to things that were just electric, not being able to tell which way is north, which way is south, yada yada. But then not only coming out the other end either fine, or in my favorite accounts, coming out and then telling people, like, hey, like, you got to fix all our equipment. It all went super haywire while we're out there. And people looking at logs and records and going... No, it clearly ran perfectly the whole time. An entire cruise of people, sometimes literally into the hundreds, being like,
"No, it didn't."
No, it didn't. The whole time we're out there, nothing worked right. But on the other end, not having any tangible proof of it. Normally, the lack of tangible proof is the fastest way to shoot down something supernatural. And the fun thing with the Bermuda Triangle is that sometimes it is that very lack of proof that makes it so strange, because the only proof will be all these first-hand accounts of, well, it happened to me. That's just the way it is. It did happen. In the Devil's Triangle, it's more focused on disappearances.
Yeah.
That the sightings of things are a little bit rarer, but every once in a while there'll be sightings of something seen in the sky that is referred to a long time ago, before shipping was super common, was described as a type of dragon, and it was seen over the Devil's Triangle fairly frequently. In modern day,
has it been called the Dragon's Triangle? Is that one of the names?
Yeah, it is.
Yep,
that's correct. And actually, I think the Dragon's Triangle is actually what it's called over there.
Yeah.
I've always learned about it, unfortunately, from Western sources.
I think it's a rift, another world that has a fantasy element, and that's why we have cryptids.
Yeah.
I think so. I think that's it. That's my theory.
So if we want to go with the isekai theory, that it is a gateway to our very own anime
I'm
adventure.
A mermaid. I know what it's like to be a protagonist, main character. Sorry.
No, it's great. It's great. But part of the reason that the triangle really fascinated me as a kid, even though it probably really is just a concentrated body of shipping
magnet. I honestly think it's like magnets. So.
Is I love landmarks that prove to humans we haven't conquered this place yet.
Yeah.
Like, in some ways, the world not only is still mysterious, but also can still rock us.
Yeah.
And like the messing with equipment and with electromagnetic readouts and stuff happens not just there, but at other ley line intersections and other spots that are even mythologically or historically have been viewed as these strange, creepy, thin-veiled places into the supernatural. Then we enter the modern era, we don't believe those supernatural stories that surround them, but then it still messes with it. It might still have some strange electromagnetic signature, or might still mess with our equipment, and like, that's cool. It almost, like, that's how we measure how supernatural it is the fact that we can't measure it, and that it's messing with us back.
We don't understand it. We can't control it. Therefore, it's weird. It's supernatural. We don't have the science yet to understand it.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Magic is just science. We don't
understand. Which is
I still think it's a rift.
still one of the greatest quotes ever. Do I actually believe it's a rift? Absolutely not. Do I
wish
it was, and legitimately, honestly, do believe that there's a tiny possibility to this? Yes.
What about Atlantis? Where's that located? Is that located?
So Atlantis is fake. Period.
Damn, I'm just asking where.
Now, if you want to talk about Lemuria, then we'll talk. There's a,
Well, you want to do that on another episode?
so yeah, absolutely. Actually, we got just enough minutes left. So if you want to compare Atlantis to the Triangle, we can. Its descriptions.
Yeah.
It would have been west of what they were considering the civilized world at the time. So it would have been in between Europe and North America,
Yeah.
which isn't where the Triangle is, but it's still in that column of ocean.
Yeah.
The thing was, though, is a little, and I'm so sorry, and this is a water topic, so Atlantis is perfect right now. So anybody who loves Atlantis, I'm super sorry. I'm about
Everybody
to.
knows my shirt. Sorry,
It's a good
I love
shirt.
this book series. I love this movie. It's fan. I need to reread it so bad. It's so good.
Picking up a girl in the Triangle right there is the perfect plot to a wonderful supernatural comedy.
Like you just pick up this weird aquatic creature that's vaguely hot but threatening. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, it's my girlfriend.
Hell yeah.
Like she hatched from an egg.
So the I lost my spot. Oh, Atlantis. So here's the deal: is
Try to go to the South Pole and the government will kill you.
I'll,
True.
hey, don't pass up on picking up a strange girl in the Triangle. Who knows you could be missing out on? That's shit.
I mean, that's where UFOs are. I mean, honestly, that's a Sarah J. Maas book waiting to happen.
Okay, if we ever get enough money.
Guardian's Guide to Dating Girls in the Bermuda Triangle.
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay,
Hell.
if we ever
So yeah, quick Atlantis thing. Oh, that's it. If we ever have enough money, we just need to
go to the Bermuda
Triangle, get on a little
But
shitty
dude,
yacht.
what if electromagnetic thing happens and we don't come out until 10 years?
That's okay.
And then everybody aged but us.
Yes, that boom. It's great.
I keep always winning. I don't know how. I just try knowing. Oh, thank you. Sorry.
Good luck, Guardian Andrew. Good luck. So here's the thing with Atlantis is people always tie it really hard to like water and because it was a big ocean continent, blah blah blah. Thing is when the first tale of Atlantis ever told, it wasn't supposed to be real, and this like isn't really up for debate. It was told as allegory.
Yeah.
It was a warning, and when it was being told, it wasn't like, oh, trust me, I'm going to tell you a history about a place you've never heard of. It's called Atlantis. Blah, blah. It was very much like, hey, we're being greedy and stupid and it's spit in the face of God and stuff. Like, let me tell you a tale of where that will lead us.
Yeah.
And at some point, we, like, I don't know how the Western world did it. We just forgot it was never real. It was never a part of mythology. It's not a part of the Greek myth. It was literally, there was never a time in which it was ever believed until the 1800s. That's when it started. People took this ancient thing and went, it's no longer fiction. It is now real.
1800s is where a lot of shit went crazy. It was spiritualism. It was summoning the dead. It was Atlantis. I think everybody was just bored because they were so I don't know what was happening in the 1800s.
Now, actually, you're totally correct. Yeah, no, spiritualism went like wild,
Wow.
and we'll have a whole spiritualism
just,
episode.
They were so
and we'll do a fucking
restricted,
seance.
It came out in different ways.
Yeah, but what I will say though, right after I talked about all that shit about Atlantis, Lemuria, on the other hand, was, check this out, a continent that was ahead of its time, that got sunk and fell. And unlike Atlantis, it wasn't allegory. It was myth. So was Lemuria real? Probably not. But unlike Atlantis, there was a point at which it was believed in as an actual place. And it's not the only one. There's a couple other classic sunken continents that, unlike Atlantis, were believed in, were real to people and their history. They knew it was real and it was part of their mythos and their belief systems. And when people go Atlantis hunting, if they find something if that ever happens, great. It won't be Atlantis though. It'll be one of those places that actually might have existed. So that's I'm
actually going to be looking up continents now because, like, this is also why I love doing this with Kyle. Is this reinvigorates my interest in these things because you get really into something, you read it, then life gets in the way, work gets in the way, friends get in the way, and you just kind of forget all those special hobbies you had.
Oh yeah,
and he's a walking encyclopedia.
Easy not to lose your weird. Also, Liger, so one of my favorite things ever is I love, and keep in mind, I've already said this once, but I'm not very spiritual, I'm not very religious, but I love knowing this stuff, and I love the fact that boy, oh boy, do cultures, no matter how distant or how little contact they had with each other, they like to have a great flood. The Great Flood might be the most prevalent, not like, I almost don't even know how to talk about it, because it's not only the most prevalent myth that exists in humanity, period, across almost all lines and cultures, but like, it's wild. Like, if you wanted to do, not unified field theory, if you wanted to do unified mythology theory and just prove that all this shit is real all at once across the whole spectrum, the flood would be a great place to start, because man, oh man,
it happened across so many continents, mythologies and religions.
Oh yeah,
and also like this idea of Jesus.
Jesus
is a figure that's figured in like 5 other religions, and it's a young man sacrificing himself for the sake of the village or the world. It's just there was a story in like Aztec culture about a guy, and it had something to do with Quetzalcoatl, and that's another story for another day.
But still,
everything's connected.
But those shared mythoses, especially amongst people who never had any contact with each other, or when they contact each other, they immediately found out that they already had some of the same myths. That concept will always, as I said, I'm not a believer. But the parts of me that are right there, and that's where it comes from. It's that chance that, like, there's a reason why we kept coming up with the same myths. And not, like, stupid fucking pyramids. Like, people love to blame that shit on aliens and stuff, which, like, bro.
No, it was
the simplest way to build a thing is to stack it. So, of course...
It's human labor.
Of course we all made pyramids and every fucking thing. It has nothing to do with some shared psyche. It has nothing to do... But our myths, that's a different story. The likelihood that we would tell each other not just the same myths, but the same myths detailing events at the same times, that is a lot harder to explain than a pyramid.
Well, isn't it like the Babylon where
the Tower of Babylon?
Tower of Babylon, where everybody was gifted different languages, and that's when everybody kind of like drifted apart or something. I have to go back and read the story.
Yeah, Tower of Babylon, super nutshell.
This show is just a reminder to reread certain stories.
Oh hell yeah! Well, and to reconnect with stuff that used to fill your eyes with a little bit of wonder when you were a kid.
I still believe in it. Yeah. I'm a mermaid.
Yeah, I know you're a mermaid.
I know.
I'm aware.
And that's the whole point of this show, is just to have fun and what if.
Yeah, and also to sometimes look what if right in the eye and go, maybe not on this guy then maybe not on this one.
I had no idea. I knew it was disproved. I knew Atlantis was definitely disproved. I never thought it was an allegory.
Yeah.
And
most people don't know
makes
that.
Sense.
Yeah. Most people don't know that.
You mean Disney lied to me? Disney lied to me.
Okay, I don't want to tell you what they did in Hercules, but unfortunately.
Oh, you mean Hera's not his mother? You mean he didn't kill his family? What? If you can get your hands
Liger. There's not a whole lot of things that I would like actively kill for.
It's the text of the Bible.
I mean, there's a lot that like already that are available.
Or the Key of Solomon.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Like, I want to go into the papal archives so bad.
Yeah.
I would pay so much money. I don't have a lot of money, but I would pay it.
That's actually the reason that the only language that I'm not very good. For those who don't know me, I'm not super good at like learning languages. I'm really smart in some ways, and like one of the ways I'm a fucking idiot.
Language is my thing.
I don't learn it. I'm bad at absorbing new languages, but I want to learn Hebrew so bad because there's so many of those little texts that like I want to read without translation, and not for some conspiracy reason. Like part of it's just to appreciate the poetry, but the other part too is like there's so much Dagon. Oh my god, I forgot to talk about Dagon. Okay, this will 30 seconds. Dagon's my man. I'm not sure people who don't know that Dagon's my man. So if
I know. Catholic.
Oh yeah, they do,
They
and
do.
that's not even being conspiratory.
Catholic, and I do not associate with religion in any way. That's just what I was raised, and it's amazing like how many things I've come to discover when I left the faith. Not like I was ever part of it anyway. I was just forced to go, and how much my family doesn't know, and how much people don't know, and how much people who are still steeped in religion. I'm like, you don't know this?
Yeah.
Like this is common, but it's just they're not told about these things. They don't want people to be told about certain things.
Yeah, and that's actually like not to
Now spell Dagon.
Just Dagon. So if you're a Lovecraft fan, then you know Dagon as a horrible fish god. Yeah, that's my man. That's my man. Isn't he beautiful? Isn't he beautiful?
I like his tail, very colorful.
So if you're a Lovecraft fan, Dagon is a bad guy in the story, and he's a big scary fish god. If you are a religious scholar or a person who actively enjoys studying some of the weirder chunks of the Bible, then Dagon is either a devil, a demon, or a false god of some other region. Or
isn't that what they did? Like Lilith? Well, no. That's
for the most part, that's another
That-
episode. That needs to be its whole thing.
I love Lilith. She's my
But-
girl.
But if you're a D&D fan, then you know that Dagon is an Obrith demon lord who drove a Demogorgon man. That big scary fish guy. That's right. That's that Dagon.
We love Norse and Greek mythology. We actually covered some bit of it with Selkies earlier.
But just a little bit. And we will definitely have a full Norse episode because Norse mythology
which is on topic because God of
bitchin'.
War Ragnarok is killing it, and it's a great series.
You want to do Norse episode next episode?
That's a great. But what? There's so much about Norse mythology. What would we? Everything.
We'll talk about it. We can make it work.
I love Baldur and his story and how stupid it is.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
my
me
favorite.
too.
Mistletoe? What the fuck? If you okay, Kyle had a good point. I didn't want to tell a Norse mythology story to a friend last night because I didn't want to ruin potentially God of War. And it's like, this shit is
2,000 years old. I can't handle it.
know about it.
It's not
Like,
spoilers.
if you don't know
It's-
Baldur was killed by Loki with a mistletoe, go fuck yourself.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's like knowing in what is it with like he's dead, you know, whatever that show is with
Sixth Sense?
Sixth Sense,
Yeah.
yeah. Like if you don't know by now,
Yeah.
we can't do anything.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. What's the name of it? Or do you happen to remember in this moment?
Tell us.
Yeah, I have one of my favorite books of mythology. I believe the title of it is just Mythology and Superstitions. I think that's it. But it's by, the author name is Michael Jordan, which is great. And I bet that's never caused him any woes in his professional life. It is a bit of a dry, boring read, but in the best possible way, man. And what I mean by that is if you really want to just be like, I've heard of this spooky thing. What is it? This is like, it's the best little resource ever. I love it so much.
Can you send me a picture of
Mythology Timeless. I think one of my friends has that. I might even be able to imagine the book in my head, but Dagon, you brought me back. Thanks. This is why we need a producer
This is an
sitting with here
ADHD
and
show.
doing this.
This is an ADHD show. People who have ADHD will be totally, and if you don't, hopefully you still enjoy it. But we do need someone to be like, hey,
Yeah,
hey,
and feel free to always do that in
hey.
chat.
Yeah, please. Gilded Lady is also.
Dagon
Okay, wait.
is quite oh yeah, we would once money exists.
Oh yeah, when we have money, it's over for you
Yeah.
bitches.
So, Dagon though, last one I said was in D&D. He's a powerful demon lord, Obrith lord that drove Demogorgon mad, and he's fantastic. And in 4th edition, he's a level 32 solo encounter. Haha, there you go.
Good for you.
But
Good for you.
I would love to so bad, but right now we're not really set up to. We hopefully by next episode we'll be in a spot because I like to grab pictures and things for these.
And I need to get a stream. I want to get oh my god,
One of those things. I know.
A stream like with those tablets. I used to have one. I lost it. I know. I was moving, and so I just got to go and just put the money down and go get it.
Yeah.
You know? Stream Deck.
Stream Deck,
excuse
there
me.
you go.
My brain is so in one place.
I get you.
It takes several
I get you.
exits to get to the other place.
Oh, we actually do have a Twitter for this account. We just haven't thrown it really out there yet. I've been updating it daily with just
We
little
do have a
weird, fun tidbits. But right now, the Facebook is definitely the more active thing. And you can find that at Ghost House spelled like an idiot, H-A-U-S-E.
It's not. It's spelled cool wise. Yeah. Shush.
But yeah, the Twitter will exist. As I said, it actually already exists. I've been posting on it. I just haven't told people it exists. But Dagon, my man.
Yeah. I'm getting all these samples of these books they're recommending, so.
It's whole deal.
I know.
He was actually just like a Babylonian mercantile god, and he was super chill. He's just a god, and nobody. It's all good. Got a grain and coin and trade.
That's not bad.
But his bottom half, you saw him. He's a mermaid, basically. Bottom half is a fish.
My favorite.
Top half, a handsome man.
My favorite.
And he's one of my favorite little things when you talk about the way that myth evolves. And for any like diehard Christians who happen to maybe be watching, I apologize if anything I'm saying is about to be even a little bit offensive. That is not my goal. But it's really interesting because in the Bible, Dagon is this grand deceiver and this great evil. And over time, it's evolved even worse, where like he is treated as like an archdemon, and he commands
like
legions of devils.
level, Asmodeus.
Yeah, Dagon's one of the big ones.
We
the
should
Whisperer.
talk about the levels of demons.
Oh hell yeah! I love the infernal hierarchy so much.
Lucifer.
But Dagon is one of those wonderful spots where like people who, it's really easy to fall prey to believing in things that you probably shouldn't if you don't look at the context of the creation of that thing. Dagon as an entity is so much older than not only the Bible, but even the Old Testament. This Babylonian deity, what had his time was around, and he was worshipped really widely. He was an incredibly common god. In fact, he was stamped on coins and stuff.
Do you think did it predate Greek mythology? Or do you think they kind of went hand
probably.
in hand? Because I would think he's based off Poseidon or vice versa. Or they have
they both, in a Carl Jung kind of way, they both just kind of play off the same angle.
Yeah.
But, because he actually didn't have a whole lot of ties to the ocean. For having a fish bottom half, he was just barely tied to the ocean. He was really only tied to it in the sense that merchants used it.
Yeah.
But he's a great example of an entity that you can literally just study and find where he existed before the texts of the Bible started to come together. And you can go, oh, here's this other figure that got scooped up and then demonized and turned into something vile. And like once you start to really look at the world in that way, where you see the context by which a lot of these religions came forward, you can get kind of readily identify the stuff that's like, well, I can reference Dagon and go, he's obviously not a demon. Like, for 1,000 years, he was a god of merchants, and he was a chill fish guy. And like, am I saying that Dagon was real? No. But what I am saying is that all of these myths, all these legends, you gotta view it in the context of the time it was created. And if you track the evolution of mythology, it gets really, really, really hard for people to take advantage of you with myth and with legend.
But that was a big part of religion in general, is demonizing a lot of ancient paganistic beliefs.
Well, specifically the Catholics.
But yes, the Catholics were super good at that. Like,
Yeah.
And by the way,
They're the best at it.
they're so pagan. Catholicism is so pagan.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, But you guys just gave me some homework.
That's true.
Also, I love it when people use characters from like other deities and they put them in D&D or they put them in like Dark Souls, and I'm like, I love that.
D&D, if you cut out all of the old pagan deities out of D&D, the monster manual would shrink by like 2/3.
I wouldn't be surprised.
It's completely true. Also, that hits our 2 hours, unfortunately.
It's 2 hours.
And I think next episode we're doing Norse. I think I got decided.
I think that's great.
Let's talk Norse shit, and then we'll break it out into little tiers, so we're not just telling
And if you
myths.
have any reading recommendations, send
Sure.
to me, because I have to he's gonna know Norse so much more.
Oh, yeah, I
Mine
will.
is more Greek and some other stuff. Norse is just
It's fun.
my brain absorbs it, but not to the point that yours absorbs it.
Yeah,
And
but
his
I'm
brain
stupid.
He's stupid.
I'm a stupid spongy boy. All of you are beautiful. Those who stuck with us through the whole time,
Thank you.
what the fuck is wrong with you? I love you. For those of you who popped in, popped out, or anything else, oh, he's got the caffeine. I don't have that yet.
Oh.
It has been delightful. Hopefully we didn't lead you too astray, and hopefully you found us interesting and not too ADD.
And it's good to be back. We were off
Hell
for 2
yeah.
weeks. Well, part of it was holidays. There
And then
was no
sick.
way we were probably going to be sober enough to be on.
Yeah.
And also, this poor guy
got
had
very
to
sick.
recover. And even if you tried, I would have kicked you and be like, go home.
If you want to follow us and see other silly stuff that we might be doing, or what the plans are
Let me
going
go ahead
forward,
and share a Facebook page. And I got to start doing that.
yeah, please follow us on Facebook. We also have a Twitter. We also have an Instagram, but they're kind of placeholders right now.
Yeah.
While the Facebook is actively being used and engaged with. So
Yeah, and he shares new stuff every day.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
yeah, it's just a fun little place to learn some weird shit. And we will, Guardian Andrew. Thank you for the idea though, and just the reminder, because that's the one downside of running a channel with two very ADD folk is
Yeah.
priorities is hard.
And also, we have full-time jobs. Stuff happens.
yeah,
you
life
know?
happens.
Oh, I'm trying to, like, share.
But okay, I think that's
Hold on.
Okay.
Let me copy this.
Okay,
Let me
go
copy
for
this
it.
and share it on
I believe in you.
because I want people to, and hopefully I'm logged in to Ghost House. Otherwise, I may just share it for next week. And I
Basically.
hopefully will have because we can't have commands saying, "Hey!" exclamation mark Facebook exclamation mark, and then I got to get back onto the bots and be like, how do I do this again? I don't remember.
I'm good with Discord bots. I don't know Twitch bots very well.
Discord can suck my dick.
I like Discord, but I don't like Discord communities. Does that make any sense at all?
Okay.
Oh god, I can hear myself. I hate that.
I know, me too. Okay.
Okay, yay.
Sorry. Oh shit, the link is horrible. Sorry, but we're on there. Just
We love
copy
you.
paste it. We'll have it all up next week. Oh my god, I gotta shut us up. But thank you guys so much for those of you who followed. Special thanks. This is something we would like to do well at.
Yeah.
This makes us happy.
But we're still learning right
information.
now. We're still figuring it out.
I'm so sorry. All right, guys. We will talk to you later. Let me